Alright, we are going to be playing an Elemental Hit Slayer.
You were born to be
The first thing we are going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the mechanics for Elemental Hit. All the damage for Elemental Hit, unless you have some source of conversion from one element to another, essentially comes from the damage on the gem itself. So it functions a little bit like a spell. Because it functions like a spell, we want to make sure we have good XP throughout the axe so that our elemental hit is always up to par what we're funding is. Because elemental hit doesn't really care about physical damage or chaos damage, we can use like whatever weapons we find. In this case, we're going to use some pretty early axes that have 1.5 attack speed. We're going to play axes because there are a lot of potent axe nodes for leveling. Eventually, you'd probably want to play like crit something or other on elemental hit, but for leveling, we're gonna play precise technique. So we'll always be paying attention to our accuracy and our health ratios to make sure our accuracy stays above our health. So we're mulling a ranger because we get momentum support, which is nice. We also get frost blades, so functionally we get 5 wisdom scrolls for free because we use frost blades to level early. We're going to keep this hatchet because it's got 1.5 attack speed and it's got decent colors for us. We'll just use it as a weapon swap on the duelist until we actually swap. The thing that I'm looking for here at this vendor is a red-green gem, at least. I see one here. I also have this plate vest, so I can do whatever. I want an axe, two-handed, because we'll play two-handed until we swap. I'll pick that up. It'd be great to have a red-green-blue set up somewhere. The blue is for Frostblink, so this is a very successful vendor here because we got one red-green and we got a second red-green along with a blue socket. The first red-green will be for Frostblades and Ancestral Call. The second red-green will be for Leap Slam, faster attacks, and we can put Frostblink on there as well. We'll be leveling with Frostblades, essentially from 1 to 12, or 2 to 12, I guess, on Duelist, and then we'll also use Spectral Throw as our single target instead of Frostblades. For a Spectral Throw, we'll just link it with whatever reasonable damage gems that we can sort of find. Spectral Throw Momentum is typically great if you have a green-green. Spectral Throw Chance to Bleed is also fine. At level 12, we'll swap to Sunder, and we'll use Sunder from 12 to about 32. At 32, we'll swap the Elemental Hit. This will give us a chance to get a lot of passive points on the tree, and we'll respec some stuff, and we'll put it into things that scale Elemental Hit. The issue with Elemental Hit early at level 12 is you just don't have enough passive points that have good oomph or juice to make swapping that early worth it. Plus, we can get stuff like Auto Exert, Ancestral Cry to help with the quality of life on playing a strike skilling campaign by the point that we're 32. Okay, we're gonna check for 3 links or anything similar. We've got the boots there, which is great. Don't see anything else I wanted. We will pick up a supplemental damage item, such as a Rustic Sash or an Iron Ring. I prefer Rustic Sash because they're cheaper and I can get them more reliably. So we will just get that Rustic Sash. Got everything I need. Let's blast. Alright, so as we go through here, essentially, you don't need to kill anything in the coast. If you do want to kill something in the coast, it's fine if there's a giant pack of it. Functionally, if you get a gem as a quest reward, or if you got a gem as like a starter gem, if you get to 2 1/4 in the coast, you'll actually level that gem up to level 2. That does not apply when you buy a gem from a vendor because they have a different starting XP point than the other couple gems I mentioned. So, if you get it to level 2 in here, like 2 1/4, and you level up that gem to level 2, you can get a little extra dam on mudflats. Not a big deal. Small optimization since there's usually a ton of mobs chasing you anyways in coast, and you can kind of group a big pack up and just hit them in the head once or twice and then move on. In this zone, we want to get to about 3 1/4. We do this because we want to get 4 by the time we leave Tidal Island, and Tidal Island does not have consistent XP. It has about 1/4 of a level at the Hillrake area. Outside of that, it could have a lot of density or it could have no density. So, because Mudflats typically has a lot of ROAs and better density, we'll rely on it to get most of the levels we need for this first part of Act 1. The reason why we want to hit level 4 is because it's a lot easier to change gems like in town or at the start of Submerge than it is after dinging 4 in Submerge and trying to fit everything in while you're moving through the zone. In terms of the first town buy, I want to make sure I check my currency right now to see what I got. Right, so I have 2 Wisdom Scrolls, which is perfect. What I'm going to take is I'm going to take Ancestral Call from the quest reward from Nessa, and then I'm going to buy a Spectral Throw for our single target. And then from Tarkley, I'll take Decoy Totem and I'll use Dash. We are not going to use the Shield Charge Weapon Swap tech. We'll just Dash. You could totally do the Shield Charge Weapon tech. If you do, you just need to make sure you have enough Wisdoms to buy a shield, or you picked one up off the ground, and you buy Shield Charge from the vendor. Or you take it instead of Dash. Here we have enough to buy a Spectral Throw, so we're all set. We like our gem links so far, so we are good to just continue blasting. I actually put that green, green, red on because that will be a great setup for our Spectral Throw. We'll take Ancestral Call as mentioned. We muled over the life flask, so we'll do a 3-to-1 recipe to get a better flask. Buy a Spectral Throw. And then we can sell the stuff that we don't need. We don't need that cleave gem, so that can go. We can keep a rustic sash around in our inventory if we want to do a rustic recipe, because like the damage values on from like the flat physical rolls aren't gonna matter eventually. So like we don't really have a lot of use for blacksmiths because elemental hit doesn't scale with physical damage unless you have conversion. We won't have conversion, so if you find one early, you can just chuck it on whatever and get some extra damage. I don't know where I'm going, a little bit lost. I should have just kept heading straight down, but I got caught up in yapping. Okay, we'll drop a portal by the stairs. We'll keep a green gem in our inventory. It doesn't have to be the ranger gem. You can sell it or drop it just to have a green gem so we can do a topaz ring recipe eventually. Ideally, we'd also like to get a sapphire ring, so our 2 resistance rings will be a sapphire and topaz, and what we'll do is we'll craft fire res on them.
Couldn't ask for a better training ground than Rayclast.
We're going to do the goat's path because we want to hit about level 7 by the time we're exiting ledge. The goat's path in most of the ledge layouts is a little longer than just going along the outside, but there's way more mobs and density, which means it's easier for us to hit our XP breakpoints. We don't have to XP as much elsewhere, so it's a nice little trade-off. Yes, it's a little longer, but we don't have to spend time killing as much in climb. And climb is a very dangerous zone. I wouldn't know anything about that, such as like randomly hitting, I don't know, say like 4 or 5 molten shell goats my previous run and dying to them because I didn't respect it. That did not happen to me, but you know, it could happen to you. Alright, so we'll just keep XPing as we go through here. We want to take Decoy, by the way, because Decoy is going to help us out early a lot with setting up Spectral Throw without repositioning ourselves. Ideally, we want to get a triple hit on Spectral Throw. To do that, we want to aim like a character width behind the target with Spectral Throw. That's where we want it to sort of like stall out, and by character width, I mean like our character width. If the mob is in our face and we're throwing it through, unfortunately, we're only going to hit twice with Spectral Throw. But if we stall it out right around like your character width behind the boss, you'll get a triple hit sometimes. So decoy helps us with that precise positioning. Also, you know, saves us by taunting stuff and, you know, when we do dumb stuff. So Ancestral, part of the reason why we end up using stuff like Frostblades for clear is just because it clears better than Spectral Throw in situations where things aren't already following you and like clumped up. With Spectral Throw, you kind of have to like throw behind you to mobs that are like following you, so that can be a bit risky sometimes. I prefer to just kill stuff. Frostblades clears super well in the early act. And then the issue with something like Splitting Steel, as someone's asking about in chat, is that Splitting Steel just kind of doesn't quite do as much damage. It doesn't clear as well, so you have to attack more, which slows you down a bit. It's totally cool if you want to use Splitting Steel for clear. I haven't used Splitting Steel for a little bit for single target in Act 1, so I don't know how that does. I imagine it would not be as good as Spectral Throw, we'll put it that way. Diplomatically, because I have tried, you know, I used to be a huge Spectral Throw enjoyer, and then they did all the nerfs to it, and then they changed the underlying mechanics, and you know, I don't know if it's quite in a good spot yet, but it's something to look into. Yeah, apologies. Initially, I read that as Spectral Throw rather than Splitting Steel. Okay, we will kill both of these guys. We'll just go ahead and get this started. So we'll talk about how we stall out our Spectral Throws right behind them. I'm going to have to get set up. I'm going to clear some stuff first, and then I'm going to decoy. So you can see, I'm just going to adjust right here, and you can see that my thing stalls out right behind. And we managed to get both those guys in a line, which was kind of nice. Kind of satisfying. From this vendor, we'll take faster attacks for our Leap Slam. We can sell some other stuff. We're going to keep that Tribal Maul, and we'll use one of the essences we just got on it. We have excess wisdoms, so we're going to buy a Frostblink. We can't use it yet, but we will be able to use it very shortly. And the way we're going to be able to use that very shortly is essentially we are going to get Mana Flows. Mana Flows is this node. We're going to get it after we get the two-handed nodes that are right there. I'm going to be a little careful here because there are a lot of blue mobs here, and that boss gives them like a damage buff as well. We're going to ID this axe, and we're just going to keep it around as our other axe for now. Eventually we're going to use a chrome to get different colors on it, but not right now. Then we'll use the best essence we have available there. We don't get something great on it. That is okay. We can see that on this right side here, we can't go anywhere else, so we're just going to log out, go back to town, and go to the waypoint. Instead of backtracking, it'll be a little faster than not logging.
There'll be time for that soon enough. I can't do this just yet.
Other breakpoints that I am looking to hit here. So I've got those two nodes, by the way, which is great. But before Brutus, I want to be about 9.25. This will give a chance for my level 4 gems to level up again. Not super relevant since I don't have a lot of like damage 4 gems, but my decoy totem does get more health, which will make it a little more durable against Brutus, which is helpful. I don't know, I haven't like regarding the down below guardian run I was doing, there are a couple things I need to figure out defensively with it, but in terms of like how it plays a lot later, I would look at to a more minion oriented player than myself to see sort of how would take it. Yeah, that was a little scary because I wasn't paying attention to like my flask of positioning there, and I almost ended up with another trip to the beach. Yeah, I'm sure Gazi will have something for down below, given the recent changes to it relatively soon. Or, you know, like, once some time has passed since patch notes and we get some more details about gems and stuff, and PoB updates, that sort of stuff. Alright, so we're going to pick up Mana Flows now. Mana Flows is great because it'll give us some intelligence. Eventually we'll respec it once we get near PT, and we can get that node for 30 intelligence. But until then, Mana Flows will give us access to Frostblink, as well as allowing us to equip a Herald in Act 2 when we get there. Because Duelist doesn't have enough intelligence, aka he's not smart enough to equip Heralds in Act 2 without a source of intelligence on tree or gear. And it's a little more consistent just speccing those nodes than relying on trying to get a Lapis Amulet from the vendor, which, you know, is a bit of a tricky proposition. So another thing we're going to have to pay attention to is at some point we're probably going to need to get a heavy belt or click the beef node that's also right near PT for our strength. Because we are pathing to the right first, we're not going to have a lot of strength, and we might not be able to level up some of the gems we want to level up.
Farewell.
I think this weapon is pretty ethical. Not that great. Good damage, good placement. Alright, we're going to keep making progress here. We'll hit level 10. By the time I'm done with this act, I want to be about level 12. In a lot of runs, I will hit level 10 just as I am going through to Prisoner's Gate, or not Prisoner's Gate, excuse me, Ship Graveyard Cave. And I want to be about level 12. What I am looking at now is I'm looking to see how many transmutes I have, because I want to switch to Sunder. You have to buy Sunder, which is one transmute, and then ideally you will also have to buy Intimidating Cry. So that's 2 transmutes, and then you might need to buy a weapon base if you didn't have a Tribal Maul or Jade Chopper. If that's the case, you need 3. If you start needing too many transmutes, you can just kill Merveil with Spectral Throw. Merveil dies super easily to Spectral Throw, so it's not a big deal. And then after you get the loot from Merveil, you can just go back to town, sell that for the transmutes that you're still missing, and then do the Sunder swap. It also gives you some time to maybe get like a Wood Splitter or something like that. Yep, so it's a bit awkward because of how the bases work. You don't get the next axe space until level 13, and then if you want to use a mallet and you don't have like a Jade Chopper or a Tribal Maul already, the issue is that you need a heavy belt to use the mallet because you won't have the strength. If you have a portal, drop it by cave. Once we get to cave, we will go towards Merveil's Cavern, take the waypoint into town, use the portal, go through Ship Graveyard Cave, kill Fairgraves, and log out. If you don't have a portal, you can literally just go do Ship Graveyard Cave, do Fairgraves, and then from Fairgraves, go get the Merveil Caverns waypoint and go back to town. Hey Snuggle, how you doing? So, that's sort of the game plan for the rest of the act. We're in a good position to execute on it. One thing I will mention is you do have enough transmutes for Sunder, which again is 2 for Sunder itself, and then Intimidating Cry, assuming you have an applicable weapon that can use Sunder. You don't want to swap till Sunder until you're right before Merveil, and the reason being for that is Sunder does way worse in the second level of Merveil's Caverns due to the exploding squids and slow attack speed. So you just want to use Frostblades there still as well.
Please understand that as a gentleman of honor, it pains me greatly to do this. Hard time to call for hard. Sure, were the circumstances reversed, you'd know precisely as well.
Okay, we got a Sapphire Ring, which is excellent. By the way, Nessa unlocks the Identify All feature once you go to Merveil's Caverns for the first time. So we can use that to save us some Wisdom Scrolls, which we will do so.
Yes?
We'll sell the other stuff, and we'll use the transmutes that we have in our inventory to buy the things that we need to buy, which is Sunder and Intimidating Cry. This has an open suffix, which is great, and we can sell this iron ring for a topaz ring, which we'll be able to equip at level 12. Almost forgot Sunder. While I'm here, I can also buy Ruthless, which will be useful later. So we'll do that. We'll get Intimidating Cry, and we will also pick up Sunder.
Take care.
And we're good to go. Oh, I forgot to take my skill book from Vestal, so we'll just log out real quick and do that. Eventually, we will respect those mana flow nodes once we get towards that intelligence node. This will be after we have PT. Essentially what we do is once we get PT, we'll check our value. If we don't have enough accuracy, we'll put precision on. So we'll have to buy precision at some point. We couldn't do it now. Typically, I will buy precision sometime in Act 2 when I go back to town in Act 1 to turn in the Way Forward quest. But after we spec precision, what we'll do is we can put 3 points in those health nodes right there, and then put a point, respec one of those nodes, put a point, like small nodes, put a point into the 30 intelligence, and then we can respec the rest. We can respec the rest using gold, by the way. We don't have to use like all our like things that we get from skill books. Okay. Let's get Sunder on. To do that, we can drop Frostblades. We don't really care about keeping it around. Ancestral Call will actually keep around for Ellie hit later if we need it. We can also put on our Topaz Ring. We have everything set up. Cool. Spectral Throw goes off. And we'll just beat this guy with a big stick. Yeah, the intention with this run is to finish it and then post it to YouTube. It probably won't go up today, but it will go up within a couple days. Just posted my Shockwave Cyclone run. I have the Shield Crush run that I'm also going to post, and then we'll try and get the Ellie hit run done, as well as the Down Below Guardian. So we're going to have a busy few days here doing some campaign runs and getting some videos up. At least, though, I was already working on the Down Below stuff before the buffs hit in the patch notes, so that was convenient. Okay, we can actually just log here, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to sell one of these rares, and I'm going to buy Precision so I have it already, so I don't have to go back early in Act 2 or mess up my pathing otherwise. I'll identify everything, I'll sell it, and just move on to the next act. Okay, so we are in a good position right now at the start of this act. We're at level 12. That's where we want to be to start this act. We want to be at level 13 by the time we're entering Chamber of Sins 1, about 14 by the time we're entering Chamber of Sins 2, a good chunk of the way into 14 by the time we're done with Chamber of Sins 2, and 16 by the time we do Weaver. Alright, so here, this zone isn't really all that great for XP. If we get some blue packs, cool, we'll pop them. Obviously, the bears can be very tanky. We drop a wood splitter, which is nice. We have a spare essence to use. We'll use this lowest tier essence and see what we get. Of course, we get a nice little upgrade, so we will take that. And we'll put stuff on. Now, the one thing that's going on right now is I'm going to start preparing for what we need to buy from the vendors. We want to get Herald of Ash, Poacher's Mark, and Blood Rage. Ideally, we will take Blood Rage or Herald of Ash from the vendor rewards because those will be the most helpful. Poacher's Mark is just nice single target sustain. We'll actually continue to use it with Elemental Hit because Elemental Hit has some issues with sustain early on because it really doesn't do enough damage to enable Leech well until a lot later. We're level 14, so things are looking good. We'll just keep moving forward. Here, we're going to start pathing towards PT. It will be very common, by the way, if you are playing X's to not have enough accuracy at first for PT. That's why we buy Precision early. Since 2 is a bit sporadic on XP, sometimes it can be very good, other times it could sort of be like it is right now, where we really haven't run across any mobs whatsoever, which is why we like XPing a little bit more on Sins 1, because there's good density there, there's almost always good density, and there are guaranteed blue packs at the stairwells that are the ones that don't lead down, like the other possible stairwell locations, which is either going to be to the west, south, or east. And we can use those blue packs to juice our XP. So if we don't have enough alterations for the gems that we want, we need at least 2. We're going to prioritize doing Herald of Ash and Blood Rage. And then later we can just get Poacher's Mark once we have an additional alteration. So in that circumstance, we only need 1 alteration. If you literally have no alterations whatsoever, take Herald of Ash or Blood Rage, depending on your preference. I typically do Herald of Ash, but if I don't have any red sockets available, I will take Blood Rage instead.
I can't do this just yet. I believe in traveling light.
Okay, we'll take Herald of Ash here. We are missing a red socket currently. What we can do to solve that is we can use a gamble from Silk here to just get us like armor gloves, and that should solve that problem. So armor gloves, cool, great, actually has some nice stats. Then here we will buy our Blood Rage and Poacher's Mark because we have enough alterations to do that, and we are in a good position. I'll also talk to Helena real quick. Reason why we do that is you talk to her once, she will show up in your hideout, and it's nice to have a vendor. Einhar will pretty much always show up guaranteed, by the way, in riverways and northern forests, so very rarely have I never seen him there. In cases where it hasn't happened, I think there's been like a bug or something. But anyways, talk to Einhar if you can. It gives you a little bit of extra XP in these zones and power. Riverways can get a bit hectic sometimes with mobs, but you know, it is what it is. So we're heading to Weaver first, and we want to get 16 before Weaver. That way we can equip Poacher's Mark, we can equip our Herald of Ash, and equip our Blood Rage, get a nice little power spike. Typically, you should be able to get enough XP to do so because Weaver's Chamber is pretty dense with XP. So that's a good spot to get some XP. If you're like 15 usually entering, like 15 and a quarter, you should be able to get enough XP before Weaver to level up to 16. Sometimes, however, you know, you'll get a little unlucky and that won't happen. What's up, SMSW? So we're 16 already, so we're gonna start equipping some stuff here. We'll put Poachers on, and then we'll put Precision on later if we need it. So the reason why we don't get something like Herald of Purity is, 1, it costs some extra alteration, but 2, instead we can, you know, if we have an extra red socket that we really want to use, we can use something like Blood and Sand with Sunder. But typically we want to have the reservation available to use with Precision if we need it for PT, because that'll be more of a bonus that we get from PT than we can get from another Herald, for example. Okay, we're level 17, so our XP is excellent here. We can actually get PT before Weaver, which is kind of funny. We just need to make sure we equip Precision. And then hopefully we'll do a good amount of damage here. But even with Precision, because of this Shrine, we actually don't outgain our health value, so we'll turn that off. And we'll rely on Decoy Totem to take the anger from these various mobs for us, so we don't get sunlocked by stuff. Nice.
I believe in traveling light.
Pretty chill. Weaver, if I do say so myself. We'll ID all this stuff and we'll just end up selling it.
Goodbye.
We're going to need quite a few alterations eventually. We'll also need transmutes. In terms of the gem reward you want to take here, you want to take close combat. And once we get 18, we'll put that in over momentum. Close combat will work for both elemental hit and center. That's why we take it, as long as we're using axes or swords. We plan on using axes the entire way through, one way or another. We'll pick up chrome items because it'll be helpful for us to get 4 links from Faustus, because 4 links and Faustus are a great combination, or 4 links from gambling, I should say. And if we get something that's slightly off-colored, it would be nice to be able to color it properly. In terms of colors, we're going to look for elemental hit. Eventually, it's going to be elemental hit, Trinity, and then sort of like whatever else you can fit on there. Like if you get a red gem, you can do elemental damage with attacks. Ideally, we'll have Fortify for the second half too. We'll talk about it more when we get closer, but that's what we're looking for now. And yes, I did just one-tap that guy. Alright, cool. Let's move on. It's been a while since I've done that. I must have had a Ruthless block lined up perfectly with the Intimidating Cry. Funny. Not planned, but nice occurrence. I don't know if I have as potent of damage against Oak here. Usually you don't, but... Nice.
Well fought, Oak.
We will only level up Precision as needed to maintain the distance between our accuracy. Right now we have a little bit of room. However, what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be trying to get health nodes pretty soon. So just to make things super easy, we're going to go for a very aggressively early Precision wheel. You'll notice that I just went back to Act 1 there. That's because when I log here, it'll take me back to Act 1 to turn the skill point right away. Saves just a little bit of time in town. So Alira will always be on the same side of the waypoint. Weaver will be on the opposite side of the waypoint in the road. The other thing you want to consider is basically Weaver and Alira will always be roughly in line with each other at the same height level across the map. Nice little tip to help you search in a proper place. It's not exact. Usually there's about like a screen or two of wiggle room, but it's pretty close. Okay, that guy got deleted too. That feels nice.
Yes?
Okay, we sell some stuff. We have an extra transmute here. What we'll do with that transmute is we'll go craft on one of our items. Our ring is probably going to stick with us for a little bit, just fine. So we'll put fire res on it. We will go back to town. Now, something happened there. This ring has intelligence. When we take it off, we lose access to Frostblink. That means we're in a bit of a danger zone with Frostblink, and we want to make sure the next time it comes up, we click it off. By the way, I lost my train of thought there and I went to the wrong zone. We wanted to go back and go do the crypt area and get the trials. So, We really want to pay attention to not leveling Frostblink up anymore. Otherwise, even with the 30 int node, we're not going to have enough space for it. Not enough int, excuse me. Yeah, this early precision, like the early accuracy wheel, really just helps with us, like, not having to worry about the accuracy at all. And, like, our damage is fine enough anyways, as it is. If you're struggling with damage, obviously, you can do other things instead of doing that wheel, but just nice quality of life, because it'll give us a head start on PT, and we won't really have to worry about it too much. Yeah. Over-leveling gems, right, is a problem, especially, you know, I've had it happen one too many times to me, so it's always one thing to be wary of when you get unexpected suffix that has an attribute that you may struggle with on the run to get. In this case, you know, intelligence. Oop, went the wrong way. The way we were going would have taken us to the next level. But we'll just go connect the right way. Get the trial. Pick up that mana flask. Probably going to use this greater mana flask through the rest of the first half of the campaign, and the second half of the campaign we'll probably switch to like a giant mana flask. Reason being is we don't want to fill our mana flask, our mana pool up too fast as melee, because it will cancel the flask. Instead, we want a slightly lower powered flask to be able to eat into the flask regen when we attack.
Shine boldly, so that all may find you when the night falls.
Ideally, in terms of XP, we want to be about level 18.5 when we go to Val Ruins. Here, we're level 19, so like we're XP in like a boss, we'll put it that way. It's probably over XPing, because we're probably going to hit 20 pretty soon, and that's a little too much XP. After we get this precision wheel, or the accuracy wheel, we will go ahead and start getting the health nodes below mana flows. That way we can respec it and just put one of those nodes into beef. And then we're checking to make sure we don't overlevel our Frostblink. No, it's okay to overlevel. It just makes your future zones a little less efficient. But it gives you extra power, so it's like not a big deal. You get more passives, you know. You don't have to do any catch-up, ideally, at any point. So, it's not that bad. It just means you might be killing too much, which might mean you're moving a little too slowly and progressing through zones if you're over XPing by a lot. If you're like, you know, half a level to like a level above the XP, like where you want to be, it doesn't really matter that much. But yeah, overkilling can definitely cause you to lose time, essentially.
I believe I could give the great Duresso a run for his money now.
Yes, there are the vendor shortcuts for Identify All. I'm still not used to really playing with it, so I don't do it myself. That'd be a nice improvement point for me, is to get used to Control Alt, right, to identify all on the vendor that can. You just have to be aware if there are any like quest dialogue. It won't work. The quest dialogue, I think, takes priority. Right, yeah, that's also another issue. As someone pointed out in the chat, you know, you can lose a lot of time to travel skills. Like, it's not uncommon to see me in runs just spam leap slam into a wall for 3 times until I realize, oh, there's a wall there. You know, can't do that. Can't leap over a wall like that.
This can't be good.
Or, you know, infamously, with shield charge, you can also allot shield charge into pebbles and have it stop that way. Alright, so we're going to follow the left wall here. The reason why we do that is in most of the layouts, the left wall will connect. Only in like 2 or 3 of the layouts, I think it's 3 off the top of my head, will the left wall not connect, and you'll have to follow the shoreline. And the opposite is not true. Only in a few layouts does the shoreline always connect. So if we're going to get forced left more often than not, we might as well just start off by going left. The other beneficial thing about that in Northern Forest is that the layouts where you have to go along the shoreline typically make it pretty clear pretty early in the zone that that's going to be the case. Okay, let's start getting these life nodes. And then if we get to level 22, by the time we are going to do the big boss of this act, Oversoul, we will have enough points to connect that bravery wheel, and we can respec 1 node in mana flow to get our 30 int node, and then we can respec the other ones. Okay, so we can't level up our Frostlink anymore, so the game saved us from ourselves. We didn't have enough int. We will right click that and make sure we do not level up anymore. Ideally, you want to prevent it from leveling up at all, if you remember early, but that like level all button is way too convenient, and so it's very easy just to click that all the time. I am guilty of that for sure. Typically a general rule on casters and things that require or rely on the level of the gem to do damage. So, you know, poisonous concoction, explosive concoction, spell gems, elemental hit. It's really important to pay attention to your level breakpoints to ensure that you're getting like a level of a gem by the time you go to fight the end boss of a act. And off the top of my head, I don't remember what the 12 breakpoints are. I just know that I'm gonna over XP a little bit in this run to make sure that I don't run into issues with that. Okay, so I think we can find enough XP to get 22 here. We'll drop a totem to prevent us from getting killed if things go bad with this box. And cool. We did end up leveling. I don't think that path will lead us to where we want to go, so we'll try somewhere else. Perfect. And beyond the first level of the Ancient Pyramid, by the way, where the next level is to upwards is random. In the second and like sort of the third level you enter, the stairs up will be like on the direct opposite side of the stairs you entered on. So if they're on the east, they'll be on the west. If you enter on the south, they'll be on the north, on the second and third floor. Okay, we'll respec 1 point here for mana flows. By the way, you can wait to use gold respec there, but and then we'll put 1 in wisdom in the glade for 30 int, and we'll respec these other 2 with gold a little bit later. Now, one thing that's going to happen is when we spec or switch to Elemental Throw around level 32, we are going to have to respec all these attack physical nodes because they do nothing for Elemental Hit. So, with that in mind, what's going to happen is we'll probably have our tree looking a little weird because we're going to be specking all these guys while having the other side. But it will make sense because eventually, once we swap to Elemental Hit, we'll spec out of all those nodes, which is about 7 points or 6 points worth of nodes, and we'll use gold to do so. Okay, and then we will move on. We want to make sure you get the movement speed craft here. Movement speed is less useful for Leap Slam than it is for like Flame Dash, Smoke Mine, Blink Arrow, and Shield Charge, but still nice to have if you end up with an open prefix and you know, you can get it, helps you move faster through town, helps you reposition better. So in this act, we'll probably try using an essence to get an updated weapon that'll last us till 32, and once we're at 32, we'll swap to Elemental Hit. If we struck out on essences, what we can do is we can use the gamble vendor. But before we do that, we want to make sure we get at least one 4-link from the gamble vendor, because we're going to want a green, blue, and a red socket. Kind of doesn't super matter what base we gamble on, as long as we're not gambling on like pure armor, pure int, pure evasion. So we'll probably gamble on armor evasion hybrid because it's going to be the most useful for us, and hopefully easiest to recolor. The hard thing would just be making sure we get a single blue socket for Trinity support. In terms of XP breakpoints, we want for Act 2, we want to be at least 22 by the time we're entering Crematorium, 23 by the time we enter Sewers, 24 by the time we enter Docks. We want to be about 25 1/3 to 25 1/2, leaving Docks. We also want to get the Essence monster in Docks because it's free Essence. And then we want to be about 28 by the time we fight Piety, and maybe like halfway in to 29 by the time we're killing Dominus. For purposes of this run, level 32 is going to equate, when we do the swap, about the time we get to the waypoint in the Crystal Veins in Act 4. When we go to town, we can respect those nodes that we still have floating for mana flows to put them elsewhere. What you can do is, if you feel squishy or you're not uncomfortable, we do have the buffer because we have the intelligence node, or the accuracy nodes. You can put them in this life cluster here, or we can do what we're probably going to do, and that's path down towards the axe nodes that give onslaught. Actually, you know what? We'll get those life nodes because, you know what? It's going to be a little more applicable to everyone. And it'll help us survive some stuff. Just seeing how we just got chunked there, why not? Take a little safety first, and then we'll get more damage.
Enough of this.
Okay. We'll ID all this.
Bye.
And then we'll go to Maramoa. We don't really care about the reward here. It doesn't really have anything for us that we care about. So we'll respec all these nodes for some gold. And when we're level 25, aka when we're returning from the dock, we will go ahead and... Oops, I forgot to put these two nodes in first. That's okay. We'll put that node in later. Pretend I put the life in first instead of beelining to the axe nodes. So yeah, we'll finish that one life node, and then we will then get the axe cluster with a rage mastery after we fill out that life wheel right there. So in this zone in particular, there will always be one bust to the left of the waypoint, and only one bust, and the other two busts will be to the right of the waypoint. And there will always be a bust to the right of the waypoint, essentially in the first room after the waypoint room. There's like a little small connecting room, we don't worry about that, but the room after that will have that second bust. And depending on what the shape of that room, it'll tell us whether we need to go up, down, or right. Down and right in this scenario kind of synonymous, but if it's a big open room, we'll go up. If it's a narrow, sort of small, cramped room in this room here, we will head down or to the right. So we're going to head down or to the right here since it's that narrowish room instead of a big open room. We'll take this Weepy just so we can make something rare if needed. Okay, getting frozen by stuff. Very cool, very cool. This zone's very good for XP because of all the blue packs that are guarding the busts here. Also tends to be a lot of blue packs outside of that. It's just one of those zones that gets a lot of magic monsters for some reason. Not all zones do. For example, Marketplace really doesn't get a whole ton of magic packs for whatever reason. It might might just be because, right, with like observer bias, that, you know, they get an equal amount of blue packs, like, naturally, but because there are forced blue packs in sewers, it just seems like sewers has a lot more on average. So I'm not going to say that it's always the case, but I would just mention that sewers is typically very good because of the guaranteed blue packs. One nice little tip is when you have the busts in your inventory, you want to line up two next to each other, because when you go to turn in the quest, if you don't have two right next to each other and you don't otherwise have inventory space, you'll have to make inventory space before you accept the quest book. If you have two next to each other, the quest book will automatically slot into your inventory without an issue. Okay, we will pick up that double axe so we don't have to buy one from the vendor, and then we will choose a essence to use from the ones that we have. We can use this crappy essence here, I don't really care too much about it. And keep in mind, we don't have enough strength, so I mentioned we might need a heavy belt at some point. This is where we're going to check the vendor and buy one.
Bye.
And then, you know, we can just throw an essence on it if we want. We won't for now, but we will indeed throw that. We'll get a heavy belt and throw our rustic stash away. If you don't have a rustic stash in inventory, you can keep one around for a rustic recipe. Won't really be necessary once we swap the elemental hit, though. Okay, we'll finish off this node here, and then we'll start getting these nodes, and hopefully we'll have the Rage Mastery by the time we're doing Piety. We don't need to do Library in this run. We do want to get Fortify at some point, so we will be doing Lily in the second half to be able to buy Fortify. We will swap to Ellie Hit at level 32, yep. And that'll be about the time we get to the waypoint in Crystal Veins and Belly of the Beast. Or, excuse me, the waypoint in Crystal Veins before Belly of the Beast. If that vendor, by the way, didn't have, say for example, the heavy belts, you could have also just put a point in beef. That's the 30 strength node that's right there, and that would have worked to get a double axe going as well. Just want to be aware of all the things that you have on tree to help you compensate for things that you don't get at the vendor or you don't get on gear. So like, we'll be taking essentially 2 resistance nodes. We already have one from the precision wheel that's right there for Weathered Hunter because it has accuracy and elemental all-res. We'll also take Cloth and Chain later before the second half to help negate the resist penalty that will be applied when we fight Kitava and get sent to Act 6. Okay, still looking for the quest item, and we are looking for the Essence Monster. We see the quest item, which is good. The Essence Monster will also be down this way as well, somewhere. Okay, we see the Essence Monster on our map now. We'll just move to that one first. We're going to gamble for our 4-link afterwards, and remember, we want to gamble on an armor base, or like a chest piece on an armor base, and we want a red, green, and blue. One thing I should mention, and I totally forgot about this till now, is we haven't bought an Ellie Hit yet. We're actually going to want to go do that, and the reason why we want to do that is that the gems you buy from the vendors level up less than they would if they were in your inventory already. So to make that swap easier, we're just going to go ahead and go buy that Ellie Hit now before we forget about it. Okay, grab the Ellie Hit. Right. We'll just put it on our axe. Our double axe, and then we'll continue on. We'll go back to Act 3 town, not Act 2 town. No, you want to level gems early because the vendor doesn't keep up with the gems that you level yourself. You'll always have less XP from gem vendor than you would if you would level it yourself in like your offhand or whatever. Okay. So let's buy a body armor here. We're gonna do armor and evasion for a 4-link. See if we get one. We do get one. It has green, blue, which is perfect for Trinity, and red. Those are awesome colors. We will go ahead and have that be our chest piece. We'll rearrange some stuff to make that happen. It doesn't need to be our chest piece right now, but we'll also just buy Trinity support early as well.
Yes.
And because we have a second red socket, if we have a bunch of alts, what we can do here is we can also buy weapon elemental damage with attacks. We'll go ahead and do that, and we'll buy Trinity.
Go with the spirit.
Okay, we'll go back to Act 3. We will go to Diala now. We're going to take the Int Amulet, most likely from Diala. You could take the Strength Amulet, but we will path over towards the left and towards Strength in a little bit. And we might need the Int for other things to level up later. So we'll go ahead and do so. If we want to use Hydrosphere, we will absolutely need the amulet that we get from Diala, and we'll need at least 25 intelligence on it. In case you didn't know, you can use the Hydrosphere to pop the explosion from elemental hit to get a little extra single target damage with elemental hit. You can just cast Hydrosphere manually, or you can do Battle Mage's Cry auto exert to have it cast for you, or you can do something like cast some damage taken, low level, and then Hydrosphere, and just have it proc when you get hit. However you want to do it, it sort of works whichever way. Not necessary, it's just a little bit of extra single target juice. Keep leveling up to get our Rage Mastery. We'll need to be 28 to get it. We should be there in time by the time we fight Piety, because our XP is good.
I can't do this just yet.
The Hydro Tech might not work next league as well, since the auto exert cost is going up a little bit. Okay, so we'll take this intelligence amulet and we will put it on. It has an opening suffix and it has a little bit of life. Both are good things. We don't really care about the life value so much since we have the accuracy cluster already. And then once we get impact from Slayer, we'll also get more accuracy. So we should be good for a little bit. And then if things start going really sideways, we can just spec the accuracy mastery. That gives you a bunch of flat accuracy. We don't need anything as a 28 gem, so we can skip Gravy Boy. We're always going to pick up crumbs if we don't have any, just so we have some flexibility in case things go sideways. Okay, get another 4-link there. Very good. We have a Greed Essence here we can put on. I would not put that Greed Essence on if your accuracy is crap until after you do your ascendancy to get the additional accuracy from the impact node. One open suffix, which is okay. This has 2 open suffixes and cold res already. So it's a bit of downgrade to actually move to the 4-link, because we lose a bit of res, we gain life, but sort of res is more the pressing issue for the most part rather than life and campaign. But I've done this run a few times before, and I know generally speaking our res situation is in good shape for Act 5 because we take Alira, we take Cloth and Chain, and we take Weathered Hunter. Well, I'm okay shifting
Piety's home away from home.
that.
Let's see if the sick witch is in.
So let's start talking about our elemental hit swap. The only thing that we're really missing right now is we need Ancestral Call, and we need Auto Exerts. And that's just to help with our coverage for the skill. We will get those in a little bit. To do so, we need 2 alterations. We have 7 alterations, so that should not be a problem. We just have to go back to Act 2 Town, and we have to buy Auto Exert from Act 3 Town. Okay, let's get our Rage Mastery down here. Sweet, we have Rage, so we have both Rage and PT for Heidi, because we hit level 28, which means we should do a good amount of damage to her.
So you've chosen to end our affair, duelist. I shall cherish your memory. To kill you is to destroy a piece of art. Damn you!
Nice. Things looking good. Okay, we're at this vendor. We need to buy Auto Exert, so we will go ahead and do so now. Got our Book of Skill, nice. And let's keep rolling. I can put my 4-link chest on since I have a green socket there, and I can put decoy on that. Eventually, we'll fix our socket links as well. But for now, that works. It's good to have that 4-link on rather than what we had, because our actual 4-link has like relevant gems on it. Now eventually, if you're feeling not so tanky in the second half of the campaign, what we can do is we can actually roll a new 4-link on a better base, because this is functionally that really doesn't have much going for it outside of the fact that it's 4-link. So we'll probably do that much later. Before we do that, we'll make sure that we have enough chromes to get like a good colors for us. The Sweeping of Torment is nice. We can put it on a ring, and that ring will get flat lightning damage. Well, that will only be applicable to elemental hit when it chooses lightning damage. It will apply sometimes, so sometimes is better than no times. Okay, we're probably not going to keep this helm right here. We'll just sell it for a chrome. We don't need another helm at the moment. I guess, you know, we can put it on and we'll sell it later for a chrome since it's got more armor. You don't need to do this, and we can sell the one we have for a chrome.
Good
luck to ya. Alright, let's go to Izaro, do our normal lab, and start getting better position to make our swap at 32. So, we are going to want to have a source of, like, an extra strike source, and there's that attack mastery that's by Elemental Equilibrium. We'll also use Elemental Equilibrium because it is a nice node for Elemental Hit, since Elemental Hit will never choose the same element twice in a row. unless it is forced to via combat focuses. Obviously, we're not going to have combat focuses, so we're not going to worry about that.
The weary traveler draws close to the end. One defiles the effigy, one defiles the emperor.
So, since we want to be up this way anyways, we can start getting that. But I actually almost PK'd you guys because remember I mentioned we don't want these attack physical nodes because they aren't going to do anything for us when we swap to elemental hit. Instead, what we want to do is we want to respec all those with gold. To be able to do that, we need to connect the duelist wheel starting elsewhere, and we might as well just get a bunch of attack speed from
Inexhaustible.
the other side. So we're going to start trying to match up our attack speed, essentially. Path it this way so we can respec all the stuff on the left side of duelist outside of master of the arena once we hit level 32. We want to make sure we have at least one chance orb for Fortify and Act 6.
Time comes to strike. An emperor strikes without hesitation.
Other chance orbs are great, obviously, because of like stuff with the Atlas. Usually, I like to kill at least one gargoyle.
I can't do this just yet.
If you're in a squishier build, you can kill multiple gargoyles. Don't jump into Azaro stuff. That might have ended another run I was doing earlier today in Act 10 because I jumped back into an Azaro attack.
You are inexhaustible.
Surely that didn't happen to me. But, anyways.
Pity the emperor who sits alone on his throne. An aspirant can afford to be promising. An emperor, a throne, is the most devious trap of them all.
Once we swap to elemental hit, by the way, Herald of Ash will no longer really do anything for us, so we can drop that gem and put reservation elsewhere. So for example, like we get haste from Act 3, which will obviously make us attack faster, which gives us a little more damage. Or you can put your defensive setup in, which will be something like Flesh and Stone and Blind Stance. The Blood Stance doesn't matter for elemental hit, because elemental hit doesn't do physical attack damage, and the Blood Stance only applies to physical attacks.
Embrace our gifts and arise, no jury, for this is the ending that we...
I mean, obviously I'm most active around league starts or when rallies are going on, so we'll sort of see what happens. Hopefully we can get a rally going this league, but it won't be for a while. In case you're unaware, Raid Class Rally is a speedrunning event I host, you know, like every, 2 out of 4 leagues or something like that. We've had 3 now. This one, if we do win this league in 328, will be the 4th one. Basically, it's just a bunch of speedruns to Act 5 or Act 10 if you choose to do the Act 10 version. And then who knows, there might be like a mapping component if there's like a cool format that comes with the Atlas changes in 328. But we won't know that until, you know, we actually play the Atlas. Yeah, who knows? I usually switch around a lot to games. Actually, I will be playing PoE on League Start. I might only play for a couple days though, because Slay the Spire 2 Early Access is coming out, and I absolutely love Slay the Spire. And I played a lot of it in January this past month, so we might be doing some Slay the Spire 2, although I won't be streaming it, because, yeah, still a bit of a noob in Slay the Spire, or like mid, whatever, not the greatest. Haven't played that long, but yeah, really enjoy Slay the Spire, so excited for Slay the Spire 2.
I think it's time to shed the dream. It's a little tight around the collar.
Okay, we'll pick up that Monument of Hatred, clear these guys, and then we should be heading towards the boss in our next level here. On the third and final level of the Upper Scepter of God, the boss will be sort of in the back middle, so it's pretty easy to navigate through. You can always tell you're in the final level, because you'll see that open cage and like all the electrical wiring. That's where you initially rescue the Scion, if you don't remember what that cage was for. If you have a new account, you don't have the Scion by default.
Welcome to the greatest of arenas, duelist. God is watching.
I'm going to choose to get that life small node there instead of getting the attack speed on the outside, because I just want a little extra life for stuff.
Submit, heretic!
Give us a little cushion, and our PT value is very good right now, right? We have 1100 accuracy, so we've got quite a lot of room where we can't life on stuff.
Have you ever seen the true face of God, exile? Shrink not from God!
Yeah,
The
true.
touch of God!
Oh shit, I forgot to move there. That was a little delayed.
This world is an illusion, exile.
Just clean up our inventory a bit. I don't need Chance to Bleed anymore, that can go. There's really going to be no use for it, since we can't do physical damage with Elemental Hit. We could have put Sunder on a 4-link, by the way, but I was pretty lazy about it, in case you guys didn't get a 4-link, or, you know, maybe I forgot about it. And I just want to say that I did it for the kids. But, no, really I forgot about adjusting my 4-link. I could have put my 4-link Sunder here and had more damage, but obviously you saw that our Sunder damage was fine. So in case you're wondering why I didn't have my Sunder on a 4-link, even though I had a 4-link available for it on my gloves, I just forgot. Happens all the time. When you notice, you can just adjust at that point, so we'll go ahead and do that. The reason why I notice is our Chance to Bleed actually would have been useful there for Sunder for a little bit, so we don't actually have a 4th gem there. Kinda funny. But we're swapping once we get to the Crystal Veins waypoint anyways. We'll take Scouring Orbs, very useful in campaign, obviously useful for mapping too. More useful on a melee class that doesn't rely on like just whatever weapons or fast attack speed weapons that will scale with elemental hit instead of anything else. Alright, so to make our swap happen, we need to get Ancestral Cry from Act 2. When we're Act 2, we can also buy some auras. In this case, we'll buy Flesh and Stone and Arctic Armor. And those will replace what we're using right now. We also bought Trinity and Weapon Elemental Damage earlier when we went to Act 2. We just forgot to buy the other reservations. And the Ancestral Cry. So a little bit inefficient, but we're remembering now. Ideally, you'd only make one trip to Act 2. Alright, so for this act, you kind of want to be about 30 and a half. By the time you're entering Dread Lake, you want to be 32 by the time you get to the Crystal Veins waypoint. About 34, or a little bit into 34 by the time you finish both Comb and Duresso, and then you want to be 35 by Piety, and about 36 by the time we exit this act. We need one more passive point, which we'll either get from the skill point or leveling to 32 to be able to do our swap. And what we'll do is we'll go to Act 2 first. From the waypoint, we'll get our gems that we need, which again are going to be Ancestral Cry if you only have one alt. If you have more than one alt, you can get your defensive auras, which are going to be Arctic Armor and Flesh and Stone. So the reason why we don't also respec Master Arena when we're going to respec all this stuff on the left side there is that Master Arena is actually quite useful. It gives us a little bit of strike range, it gives us some strength, which is nice since we're on the right side of the tree at the moment. And on top of that, it gives us life regen, which is incredibly nice when we have Blood Rage just eating away at our health the entire time. Now, it's important to mention is that we're going to have no sources of leech when we swap to Elemental Hit, so we actually want to get this node right here. And the reason why we want to do that is if you have Blood Rage and you don't have enough leech and you don't have enough regen per second, it is a giant pain in the ass just relying on your health pots to sustain it. Also, having some form of mana sustain will be helpful for us.
Buried under tons of rock? Not a good way to end this tale of
Okay, we can actually see what's on this 2-stone ring here. It's a 16 old res and lightning, and we have that Torment Essence I talked about way earlier. That'll give us flat lightning damage. We're going to put that and see if we get any good stuff on it. We really don't, unfortunately, so we will just keep the ring that we have. We can put it on for now, but eventually we want to change it off for something better.
Yes.
Okay, we want Ancestral Cry here, Flesh and Stone, and then Arctic Armor.
Be well.
We'll go back to town in Act 4. We'll turn in the skill point, and we will do our swappage to Elemental Hit. Okay, we'll use the respec feature here to start respecing all this stuff. I mentioned we wanted to get some mana leech, so we'll click that node right away with our respec point. We're going to connect up this way because we want elemental equilibrium.
But wait a moment.
We will respec this single point here. Because we don't need it, we'll use gold again. And then we're going to click equilibrium, and we're going to take this wheel here. Getting this leech, by the way, also enables this major notable. And you want to take the additional strike node. And then we have 2 points left over. And typically what I like to do with these 2 guys is put them right here. And then after this, we can start filling out stuff like here, going over here, going to get life over this way. So we have a bunch of options on how we're going to path. So we'll put on our axes. Yes, it looks a little goofy that we're using axe, like, you know, white axes, or a rare axe in this one's case. I want an open suffix on this so I can craft attack speed on it later. Or I'll just, you know, naturally get attack speed by rolling it. That's fine. Okay, let's find our elemental hit. We're going to take our Sunder off. Take our Ruthless off. Take Close Combat off. We'll put elemental hit where our precision was. We'll put it on attack without moving. We can drop Herald of Ash since it doesn't do anything. We'll put our Ancestral Cry and Auto Exert together. And then we'll put Arctic Armor on. We'll keep this Precision in case we need it. We'll put Poacher's Mark on. And then Intimidating Cry can stay as well. We'll just put it, I don't know, on one of these guys. I just want to check to make sure we have 4 damage links here. Elemental Hit, Trinity, EDA, and then we will put Ruthless on. And Ruthless will eventually be replaced with Fortify when we get it. Okay, let's get our reservations going. Where is my Flesh and Stone? Sorry, so it's taking a second longer than I wanted. There we go, Flesh and Stone. Let's roll. We'll go ahead and beat some people up with Elemental Hit. So because we have Elemental Equilibrium equipped, we're not going to want to use a multi-strike because, Elemental Hit will end up selecting a different element every single time. If we have multi-strike, it will repeat the same element 3 times, which is kind of anti-synergy with EE, because we'll never actually gain the benefit from it. So, additionally, we're also using an auto-exert support, which means we wouldn't benefit anyways from our auto-exert, because you can't auto-exert multi-strike. Well, you can't exert multi-strike, I should say, would be the proper way of saying that. See that our damage is quite good, for now at least. So I mentioned we had a couple choices about how we were going to path. You can see I've got a bunch of red strength gems over there that I can't even level anymore. So what we'll do initially to fix that is we're going to click Beef for 30 strength. And then we're going to start pathing over this way to Golem's Blood. And being at Golem's Blood will also give us access to Cloth and Chain, which is very nice to have for the start of Act 6. Yep, most of the damage, as a reminder for Elemental Hit, comes from the gem itself. Elemental Hit will only ever do damage of the chosen elemental type, so unless you have conversion from Fizz into that chosen element, or from a different element into the chosen element, you won't benefit from any other damage sources besides damage sources that apply flat damage to that chosen element. Obviously, like generic like damage increases, like LA damage or like damage with axes will still apply, but like I'm talking about flat damage or local damage on a weapon. That's why we can use normal, like, level 1 axes and still do good damage. And eventually what we'll do is we will just craft attack speed on both of these guys. The reason why we don't bother trying to get, like, rare weapons is it's just faster to, like, ignore, like, the stats on the weapon, really. We don't have to gamble it. We can spend our gambles on like 4 links instead, which is valuable.
I once heard a Cardo mention their Island of the Dead. Perhaps this is it.
The other thing pathing to the left right now will do for us is we can also pass by that dual wield node cluster. That's pretty good. We can put points in that later. We can go to Golem's Blood, which is excellent. Golem's Blood is near Cloth and Chain. And then finally, there is another axe wield down there called Feller of Foes, which has some nice damage bonuses, including bonuses to accuracy, which will help us maintain our accuracy lead on our health for precise technique. And hopefully, with both of those, we really won't have to worry about putting precision back on. We'll keep precision around in case things end up very screwy and we end up with way more health than accuracy. But I don't really expect that to happen. Our first line of defense, if that starts happening, is we're gonna spec the accuracy mastery. That gives you like, I don't know, 500 accuracy minus a certain amount of accuracy per level. Functionally works out to like giving you at least 300 accuracy no matter what. With the benefit being higher the lower level you are in campaign. Yep, attack speed and wed will both work. Both of those are crafts that you can get. Attack speed is the craft near Vol. I forgot to mention it then, but you want to pick that craft up. And the other craft that there is wed, which is the craft in the trial in Act 3 Catacombs, which is right off the marketplace. Okay, we can sell some stuff. We can keep that axe around if we want to try and maybe do something funky with an essence later. We are level 35 entering Belly of the Beast. That's great because we want to be 35 by the time we're fighting Piety, so we're already ahead of schedule.
The beast itself.
We'll start pathing over towards Golem Blood. Man, I hate Belly of the Beast too so much. Very complicated zone to read properly. They also removed some of the tells that used to be there. They're not like strict tells, but tells that help like reduce the amount of layouts, reads it could have been. Been annoying. What's up, Vinny? Haven't seen you in a bit. We'll use our decoy totem as necessary to let Piety punch that thing instead. Good man. Enjoying all the prep leading up to week start. Leveling a bunch of Slayer builds. I'll probably play Slayer on week start.
My beautiful champion. I knew I could rely on you. It was...
Okay, we should be 36 by the time we leave this act, which is great. We'll keep maintaining our XP lead to make sure that our elemental hit is leveled up sufficiently for the bosses and challenges that we are going to be facing. Eventually, if you're wondering, we can drop the auto exert and ancestral cry. I typically don't do it until sometime in the second half. Like, by the way, in like Act 7, Act 8-ish, just because I want to have the extra clear. And by the time you get to Act 7, Act 8, you also get like more scaling on the gem itself, so your explosions are bigger, so it's less relevant to have Ancestral Cry still.
The greatest form.
Well, we're not playing any slams, so we're definitely not going the Karn route. Although, unfortunately, you know, I'm a little disappointed that the auto-exert mana reservation went up a bit. That makes things inconvenient on other builds that aren't slams. I don't mind the other slam changes. Obviously, you know, over-exert getting hit as it did is, you know, a lot, right? But slams are very strong early into a league. I haven't looked at what Ben said, but you know, obviously Ben is an incredible player, probably one of the best PoE players. So, you know, I would still take his judgment on matters like that extremely seriously, and if he says it's one of the best, I would believe him. Well, that's annoying, getting killed by that thing as we're leaving out discussing Ben. This boss is a little annoying here. I have this bad habit of trying to fight her in the middle where I get hit by triple curses. I'm just gonna move to literally one of the other zones. Ben for sure would not have died there. I have no doubt about that. I also wouldn't have died there if I would have paid more attention to my lightning res. So we end up scaling the elemental hit damage through stuff like gem levels, attack speed, eventually crit multi.
Duelist. You and I will create the most.
Where's my accuracy? Oh, there it is. Okay.
Now, exile!
Die and be reborn.
Okay, let's stop standing and stuff. That is not conducive to long-term health.
What?
Now, exile!
Yeah, eventually this is absolutely going to want to use crit as a vector, whether you're playing crit axes with the Slayer Overwhelm node, which, you know, is a potential possibility, or switching to foils and going full red side. So I kind of see two branching paths for this build. One relies sort of like the tri-elemental aspect of it, playing crit that way, and using the right side, and on the left side there's a potential setup with crit axes, combat focus, and conversion using Avatar of Fire and like a Pyre Ring. So we get most of the conversion from the other elements. Not all of it, but most.
Nightmare is the true eternal. Why are you so in love with death?
Okay, Outer Home is such a great unique for leveling. I don't use uniques in my runs, so I just will toss that out. I will not using multi-strike since we're using elemental equilibrium, so we'll just skip those gems altogether. Talk to Mr. Einhar here. And then we'll get Dex and continuing pathing over towards Golem's Blood. You see our health's a little bit still low. That's kind of to be expected with a PT run. Getting Golem's Blood will help fix it a little bit, and then we'll probably gamble for another couple 4 links, which might have life on them before the start of X6. Not necessarily 4 links, by the way. Like, we don't need the 4 links. We have a lot of open sockets, so we don't need those 4 links. So we can also, you know, if we get a 3-link helm that has like super good resistances and life, we'll just use that instead. Vinny, I do most of my runs deathless, sir. So I guess it's HC viable with skill issue. Wink, wink. You know. Now, if you're playing HC, you definitely want way more health than this, just to ensure you don't have any leveling incidents like you know, I already experienced on Chevron in Act 9 or Act 4, excuse me. So if you're not level 36 yet, this zone here is an excellent zone to make up some XP because there is a lot of density and there can be a lot of blue packs. So you can just chill here until you get about 36, 36 and a half, and then move on, kill a little extra, not a big deal. Other good XP zones in Act 5 are the Templar Courts and also the Torch Courts once you kill Innocents. Obviously, the Chamber of Innocence is fantastic, and the Reliquary as well. So in terms of the ring here, I like to take, I just will check my resistances, see what I need. This ring sucks because I can't put anything on it that I need with resistances. So I'm just going to replace it pretty much straight up, or get a lightning ring instead. We'll replace it straight up with this ring. We got fire res, at least, is better than what we had before, so we will put that on. We also have these boots, which rolled absolutely nutso for us, so we are very happy about that. Those are fantastic boots. We'll equip at level 42 with a smile on our face. I don't know if they have another open suffix. They do. They also have an open prefix for movement speed. Those boots are literally the nuts for leveling. 84 life, 20 res of 2 elements, and an open suffix for 20 res of another element. So this zone is going to be a little annoying for me because my lightning res is still low.
Daring dark and dingy spaces for science.
And slave drivers hurt. Slave drivers are the lightning whip mobs, if you're unaware. We managed to stun that guy out of his channel. That's really funny. I don't know if that's happened before. I stunned him before he started channeling, and we were just able to beat him to death in that time. That's especially funny since I did it with elemental damage versus physical damage.
I see the ugliness of Orion.
Elemental damage doesn't receive quite the same benefits for stun as physical damage, if I remember correctly. I think it's 25%, like, it's treated as not having 25% as much damage as physical for the stun calculation. In other words, physical damage gets a 25% bonus over elemental stuff. Could be cooked on that one, because I'm just pulling that off the top of my head and I haven't played anything that really cared about the stun stuff for a while. Okay, we are almost towards the promised land of Golem's Blood and Cloth and Chain. Okay, got stunned there. I guess we got a little bit of our own medicine. The other nice thing about Golem's Blood, by the way, is also give us a little more life regen, which will help us deal with the annoyance that is our Blood Rage degen. So you may be wondering why we're still using Poacher's Mark, even with Elemental Hit. Poacher's Mark does give flat physical damage, which doesn't benefit us at all. However, Elemental Hit and dual wielding in general is a huge mana hog, and our leech isn't good enough to sustain us by ourselves. Because we're attacking so fast, we'll rely on the sustain from Poacher's Mark to help us. And then much later in the campaign, our leech values will be good enough to not worry about something like that. And what we can do instead is we can grab something like Punishment. Eventually, if you're playing crit, you're going to be using Assassin's Mark instead.
My spirits are spent.
But crit, we don't do a crit swap while we're leveling. Crit swap would be in maps only. Probably somewhere like 85-ish to 85 plus. I have not mentioned the blue packs on the platform. Smiles, thank you very much. If your XP is low, there are guaranteed blue packs on each of these raised platforms with these stairs. And if your XP is low, i.e. you are not 38 already, you want to make sure you kill as many of these blue packs as possible. There can also be more blue packs, but there's always one guaranteed on the raised platforms. We want to be about level 39 by the time we fight Innocence. It sets us up well for the second half, and additionally, it'll give us a chance to level our 12 gem Elemental Hit one more time, You give us a little more damage for innocence. If your XP is still cooked, you just want to spend more time XPing in the next zone, the Torch Quartz, or the Reliquary. Both are great XP zones. If you're really down bad and like your XP is turbo cooked, you can just run Chamber of Innocence again. Not a big problem. It's like if you're killing a bunch of blue packs, it's like a minute and a half to run Chamber of Innocence a second time. Okay. We'll get Cloth and Chain after we get Golem's Blood. We'll make sure we look to have the ability to craft some lightning res on stuff. And we'll account for the fact that we have our Giga Boots coming up pretty soon. The colors on this are nice for example, our movement skill setup. Because what we can do with a red, green, blue is put Leap Slam, Life Tap, Faster Attacks, and Frostblink on there. And that will help with our mana sustain because all our travel skills, which will be spamming a lot, will be on our life instead of mana. So, with that being said, when we do Lily, we'll probably want to buy a Life Tap to enable that to happen. When we do Lily, the primary thing we're looking for is just to buy a Fortify, and then we can buy whatever other gems you sort of need or want from there that Duelist doesn't already have access to, or you didn't have currency at the time for, like that Life Tap that we were talking about. If we wanted to use the Hydrosphere tech to get an extra hit and single target with Battle Mage's Cry, we could also do that as well. Remember, to do that, we need Lily because we don't get Hydrosphere by default, and also we need 79 int to use the first level of Hydrosphere. We don't need to level up Hydrosphere at all. We just want it for the extra hit it provides occasionally to our elemental hit. Okay, cool. I killed him in time. We're going to pick up that rare heavy belt since I just have a normal heavy belt. We'll identify it. Sweet, we get some lightning res and some cold res. That is excellent. Helps us with our resistances even further. I'm pretty confident that we won't have much of an issue with our resistances as long as we hit 42 and take Cloth and Chain. 42 is what we want to be at the end of this act, but also the other incentive is we have the Giga Boots at 42 coming up. Anytime we equip new gear, by the way, from here on out, we're always going to check the spread of our accuracy to our life to ensure that accuracy is above life for PT. If it's not, we already always have that precision we kept around, and also we have a accuracy mastery we haven't assigned yet.
I can't do this just yet.
See if there are any other mobs over this way. Get a little extra XP.
I wanted to raise the place. This is a success.
Take this giant mana flask in case we want to upgrade the grand mana flask we have at some point. Don't feel a pressing need to do it, but just a nice to have. We're gonna need to make some room for stuff because we don't have enough room to pick up the staff that drops here. We don't need the Fizzcraft, by the way, since we're not using the Fizzcrafts whatsoever for elemental hit, so we can just ignore waiting for that chamber to open. But if we do that, you absolutely, and I mean absolutely, want to make sure you have enough room in your inventory for the staff. Because if you log out without picking up the staff, you'll have to backtrack the entire way if you don't open that little door. The only reason, really, in most runs to open that little door with a lever is to be able to get the Fizz recipe. Okay, our inventory is pretty stacked up with stuff, so let's start maybe clearing some things out. Okay, we can sell that, we can sell that, we can sell that. Keep the Giga Boots over here. We'll turn this in. We'll put our Granite Flask on. We'll get this reward. We'll get rid of this Thunder. We don't need it anymore. We don't need Herald Rash. We'll click the book. And things are looking better. Okay, we'll start putting points into Cloth and Chain here, which will give us 16 elemental all-res and some armor, which is nice. We want to drop a portal in this zone because the fastest way to do the reliquary in this zone with the least amount of backtracking and most amount of XP for you to still gather is actually by running back to the waypoint in reliquary instead of logging out afterwards and backtracking from the ossuary waypoint to go to Kitava. Here, if your XP is cooked, you want to spend extra time here because there's a lot of mobs, a lot of blue packs, good XP zone. We'll get a good way into 41 here, and hopefully we'll hit 42 by the time we are killing Kitava. The Cathedral Rooftop Zone, which is the one that leads up to Kitava, is a bit weird for XP. It's also a bit dangerous because of the Kitava's Heralds. Those are the gargoyle-looking dudes that throw balls. They do a lot of damage. Be wary of them. There's also like the Screaming Banshees that they hurt a lot too. A lot of danger on that zone in particular. And XP density can be a bit sporadic as well. Here, if you're having issues with getting your accuracy up, there is an accuracy craft in this zone that you want to take, which we can use later. The only problem with that accuracy craft is it requires augments, and I think a ring slot or something, or amulet slot, and it's a bit of a pain in the ass. So you'd really only use it in certain circumstances. You might be able to craft accuracy on Helm with it as well. I don't recall off the top of my head though. Alright, here, before we go to Kitava, we'll get this last skill point, and actually we'll fix our res to the best of our ability. We know we're going to get 22 more cold res and 29 more lightning res, so we'll take a look at our resistances. With the additional resistances we'll get from that pair of boots, we know we're going to be good on those resistances. We just need to craft fire somewhere. We will craft fire on these gloves. And we will continue on. We have 106 after that craft. If we didn't have 106, we'd want to craft fire in one other place. Remember, I mentioned we wanted to eventually replace our helm and chest with 4 links. We'll do that at the start of Act 6 as well to get more updated bases. You can see here, really, we didn't really run across a lot of density, which is a bit disappointing. We got that blue pack. That was nice, at least. This blue pack and rare should be able to get us over the edge to 42, and now we have access to the Giga Boots. And before I equip them, I'm just going to check my accuracy value. If I were to equip those boots right now, I actually would not have enough health to maintain PT. So this is where we are going to finally allocate this mastery. And so with that mastery, we get a lot more accuracy, and we're good to go. So we're gonna play like we're gonna use the Hydrosphere tech with auto exert. So because we have enough int for it. Remember, we need at least 79 int. We do on tree, so we can go ahead and maybe set up that Hydrosphere. So we'll also buy a Hydrosphere from Lily and a Battle Mage's Cry. We don't need to buy another auto exert, so we'll just use the auto exert that is attached to Ancestral Cry at the moment, and we'll get that Hydrosphere setup going sometime in Act 7 when we would drop the auto exert setup. And that'll sort of be the last major gem change that we do for the entirety of the run. Mentos, very good job, man. Only a 3-minute difference with doing library versus not doing library is huge, because library can take a lot of time, because it's essentially 2.5 extra zones. Very good. And you know, collecting those stupid books can be like toxic if they're like all over the place. So, very good improvement, dude. Eventually, we're also going to be dropping this Intimidating Cry that we're using. Right now, we can still use it to get a little extra damage via the Intimidate, as well as the double damage from hits. Keep blasting, sir, and hopefully you'll get that sub 4 this time. That'd be poggies as fuck. Okay, here we have 1 death, that's fine. From the stupid stand-in lightning death from Chevron. Keep just attacking this guy. Don't want to stand in that degen puddle. This fight's a bit annoying for melee for precisely that reason we just ran into. Okay, now we can start pathing towards getting some additional damage nodes. In particular, this node right here that we've ignored for a while is great because it gives us ignite chance, attack speed, and the fire mastery will give us 100% extra damage. So all of those things we want, and it's right nearby. We will go ahead and click that fire mastery as our next progress node. And then after that, we'll start pathing towards some life as well.
Remember,
Okay, let's get these boots on.
time and tide wait for no man.
We'll double check our res before we go. We'll put Frostblink down here. And then we can put Auto Exert somewhere else for now. Where is our faster attacks? Leap Slam. Oh.
How's business? How can I help?
Check our resistances. We are all good. The only thing else we would care about is maybe upgrading chest and upgrading our helm. We'll try chest first, since we get a helm upgrade guaranteed, or a 4-link guaranteed from the quest to kill the Brutus Chevron thing. We'll click that. We get an okay armor set. We want a better base than that, so we'll keep clicking. That's a little better. Still not great. We'll keep the one that we first got. We'll click a few more. Okay, what do we got there? That's looking way better than what we have right now. And it gives us some res. Let's see if we can click some good colors on it. Remember, we want at least 1 blue socket if possible. We get 2 blue sockets. Unfortunately, 2 blue sockets is not playable for us. So we will have to get another chrome. We can just sell the chest that we're currently using, actually. And put this other chest on. Put our elemental hit into our old chest. Have to change a few gems around. And then we can give it another whirl with the chrome machine. Okay. Not getting that right now, that's okay. We're just going to move on. That will be good enough for now. Sometimes little time waste experiments like that happen. Not a huge deal. Trying to just increase our armor value and defensiveness. We did, so we got one of our goals, and then I believe also we can craft flat life on that later if we want. So we're gaming.
I can't do this just yet.
We want to be 43 by the time we go to progress our quest state to kill the Chevron Brutus hybrid fight, whatever it is. And to do that, to help us with our XP, what we can do is we can do Lily before we go do that, and that's probably what I'm going to do. That fight also does a lot of damage, so Fortify is nice to have there. Tukahama also does a lot of damage, so if you're worried about like dying at Tukahama, you can get Fortify and do Lily early, but I just wait until I enter Lower Prison, because when you enter lower prison, Lily will appear at sort of the normal position in town instead of waiting by the docks, which makes interacting with her a little bit easier. You know, I had always wanted to play Wild Strike of Extremes, but like I never got around to like figuring out how to make that build work. Always seemed like a fun skill to play. And also it's appealing not having to worry about like resist at all because you invert everything with it. Apple, thank you so much for the Prime. I appreciate it, man. And obviously, you know, I'm glad you've been practicing a lot and improving your times. And just hanging out in speedrunner chats generally, always appreciated to see more people trying to learn how to get faster. Big Giga Chad, my man. Yeah, I hope the new additions won't mess too much with the already established layouts, so we can still read them, and some of the new additions are useful. Right? I expect some of them not to be super useful. Like, you know, there's like a mana regen craft and library that nobody really does, because like not everyone does library. We'll see what the new campaign changes have in store for us. I probably won't be Giga Blasting on League Start, just taking things a little more casually, since I've, you know, been Giga Blasting a lot of leveling runs for like YouTube and things like that, so we'll have a more casual, laid-back League Start experience myself. Typically, also on League Starts, I like exploring the mechanic a bit, and I also like hanging out in various people's chats and just enjoying the vibes of everyone being excited about having a good weekend of gameplay. Assuming the servers aren't, like, you know, totally on fire like they were with Ultimatum. Okay, we can already get the Tukahoma passive. We're going to do so because for Elemental Hit, we have to stand and deliver all our damage, so having that stacking buff will be very nice. Okay, let's buy our Fortify with a Chancellor we have. We can also buy that Hydrosphere I mentioned and the Battle Mage's Cry. If we want to use the Hydrosphere tech eventually, we'll put the Fortify on our main links. Where is Hydrosphere? I think it's on this page. Yep, there's Hydrosphere. There we go. We don't have the colors set up for that yet. To get this thing out of the way, we'll put that in our inventory, and we should be good to go, unless I forgot something, which I did. I forgot Life Tap for our movement setup, so we'll buy that, and then we're good to go. Because we have a bunch of extra sockets, you could also do automation and like steel skin if you're not going to end up doing the tech for what's it called for the Hydrosphere. Gives us a little extra survivability, not bad to put on, not expensive to get set up either, because we had extra ults. Okay. I've got to figure out where all this stuff is, because I just put on a bunch of stuff. Oh, am I not doing an is it not Elemental Hit on the title? If I forgot to change that, I'm sorry. Oh, I do have it on the right title. No, the down below run was actually pretty good until we got to like Act 8 and Act 9, and we just instantly got gibbed by a couple mobs. And then we jumped into an Azaro Slam on the final phase of Merc Lab, and at that point I was like, okay, we're done with this run. So basically, I was 5 minutes away from completing the lab, but I just took an L to Azaro Slam. And so there were some defensive issues that I wanted to sort out with that build on my next run through. Because, you know, if I'm putting like a commentary run out there, I don't want people just to be taking dirt naps when mobs look at them wrong. Which should not happen, right? We had like 2100 health, Fortify, Sand Stamps, Blind, and then we had like the Guardian minion node, so there was some weird stuff going on there that I'll have to look and figure out what the hell happened. We want to hide behind this little torture rack that I'm set up at, because if Brutus decides to do a pull, he'll pull right into us instead of like across the room. Nice little bit of tech. The same thing when Brutus and Chevron like merge, you want to hide behind that so they don't like pull across the room. When they come out of their like little phases, they'll do one of two things. They'll either do a pull or they'll do like the Brutus Slam. So if they do the Brutus Slam, not a problem. Again, we'll hide in the corner here and let them pull to us if they're going to pull. See what they do. Yep, pulled into us, and we can just set up the fight on our own terms now.
Always a pleasure.
Okay, we want to be 46 by the end of this act, by the way. A lot of the XP in this act is backloaded into the Southern Forest, the Beacon with the Gauntlet event, and then Brine King. Not that like the zones before then are bad, although Western Forest and like the wetlands where that boss are very crappy for XP for the most part. Riverways is still pretty decent. Okay, we get anything good? Not really. We can craft some life on some stuff. Remember, we had like our res is all fixed, so we'll see what this helm gives us. It gives us accuracy rating, which is actually great for us, but it doesn't give us anything else. Our current helm doesn't really give us anything else either. We'll put some max life on there with an alteration, and we can do that with this helm too. The next max life craft actually we get in the Beacon, but it kind of requires a lot. It requires 6 transmutes. We have enough for that, so I could have waited, but I had thought about it there, so might as well just do it and have it for later. We can still craft our chest with 6 transmute life craft if we want.
I can't do this just yet.
So the nice thing about this helm too is if we do want to do the Battle Mage's Cry tech with Hydrosphere for single target, that helm will allow us to do it because we can Battle Mage's Cry, Auto Exert, and Hydrosphere in that helm without messing up our other links. So what Hydrosphere does is you can't hit the same target with both the strike portion and the explosion portion of elemental hit unless there's another target where the explosion will hit that. You'll strike that target and the explosion off the side target will hit our main boss. So what Hydrosphere does is once every second we can essentially get an explosion hit because we will also target the Hydrosphere with our strikes. It's just a little bit extra damage, not like a crazy amount, but it is a single target supplement, not necessary whatsoever.
Stay sharp out there.
Okay, we didn't get the Fire Mastery. It would have been helpful to have the Fire Mastery for the previous fight. I just forgot to allocate it. And we just leveled up our Elemental Hit again, so that means we're in good shape for Brine King. Yeah, that's a detonate box. We don't want to mess with that. We have Arctic armor on, so we can kind of, you know, go ahead and just open whatever boxes we want. We might get stunned, although we'll have Brine King to address that in a little bit. But we'll have to pay attention to stuff like, obviously, detonate corpses. Although we do shatter some corpses with Elemental Hit, it's still better to not risk it. I thought there was more transmutes for some reason. I was like, oh, we can get more crafts. More life crafts. Don't usually do this craft, but, you know, we have our suffixes for res in very good order, and we have open prefixes, so we can go ahead and do it, which would be nice. Gives us a little extra staying power. Fine. I did a pretty casual Eater Exarch on this build in like 6.5 hours or something like that. I wasn't really trying to rush it at all. Did okay, ended up with something like 70 completion by the time I did Eater Exarch, so like my Atlas was in a pretty decent state. The underlying run we finished in like 3 hours and 15 minutes or something, so. Okay, I'd like to start going towards some other damage nodes and life nodes. I have a couple choices. I can go over to Ranger and get the Primeval Force node and the life that's right near it over this way, or I can start pathing over towards Bloodless on the Duelist side to get the nodes over there. On the way to Bloodless, I can get the second Axe Wheel, Feller or Foes. I don't need any additional accuracy at the moment, so I don't need Fellow Foes so much, so I'm thinking the play might be to go to the right to get Primeval Force and to get that life set of life nodes over that way. On the other hand, we also want the Rage nodes, Veterans Combatant, which will be nice, and we'll pretty much be done over on the right side once we get Primeval Force. The other benefit of Primeval Force is we'll take the side that gives us additional Ignite and like Elemental Ailment chance to get our ailments on enemies, so that has some benefits. We'll probably go out that way first, and the reason why we're going to do that is it just will make clearing a little easier, especially when we swap our Ancestral Cry setup off. We want to be able to apply ailments a little more frequently, so we get the bigger explosions from our elemental hit. If you weren't aware, you get a bigger explosion if elemental hits a target that has an element of the chosen element, an ailment of the chosen element already affecting them. Typically, when I end this act around 46, like 46 and a half, we are 47 already, so that's good.
Don't you see? A sumptuous feast.
I just got this set of damage nodes, so I'm going to prioritize actually getting more life nodes, and then we'll get Primeval Force. Ailment of the chosen element already affecting them. That is a good way of wording it. Thank you. Yeah, getting the Rage Mastery on Axes. That would be a power spike. That's part of the reason why we're playing it, because it allows us to get Rage early on. But yeah, there's not really going to be a lot of power spikes here. The Inversion Mastery can help with the initial clearing hit, so we'll have that as well. And then maybe when we get Intimidate Rage Mastery from Veterans Combatant, and then finally, like a big power spike for this build will, once you have enough damage set up, going to a crit. Yep, we're moving fast. I'm not really worried about my damage through the entirety of this run for the most part. You know, part of why we've been going a little bit slower in spots is to slow down and explain things that would be too complicated to explain just in like the particular zones that we're going through. Okay, we'll put Brine King on, and then we will go to the next act. Once we get 48, we will clip that helm as well. I can't believe, by the way, that the gem reward from that quest is level 48, when typically most speedruns, you won't finish that zone at 48, like at all, or that act at 48 at all, so you can't even use that helmet for a while. They should probably reduce the requirement on that thing to like level 43 or something. Because that's realistically what a lot of people, or more experienced players at least, will be. I won't have time to do a two-stone run right now. Also, additionally, with the Atlas changing, I don't know how much benefit doing the two-stone runs will do, because like the Atlas strategies will change, I guess. I have to look into it more. You know, I've only read over the patch notes one time. Oh, I turned off my I turned off my auto exert at some point and I totally forgot about it. It is back on now. Funny. Pretty much the only things we have left to do, maybe after getting the Hydrosphere Battle Mage Crytek on, after we have access to it, is to just craft life on our chest, put our helm on, and then we'll be good to go. Yeah, I mean, Cyclone, so it's all relative, right? Cyclone Shockwave is fast enough up to a point. LA Hit might be a bit better of a map clear because it has more coverage than Cyclone, and you don't have the movement speed penalty. But like, you know, once you start getting into like the 90-95 range, and then once you start getting past 95 into like, you know, more endgame territory, like, and then like super juicing content, I haven't really looked at it enough to be able to tell you one way or another. I know there are a ton of builds out there for Cyclone Slayer with Shockwave because it's people tend to enjoy it, especially if you're playing something like Softcore, because you can go Staff Grit and get, you know, pretty good damage numbers on it. So that's popular. I do not know if the same is true for Elemental Hit. I know Elemental Hit was played on Freesia 2.0 with the Surfcaster, right? But some of the things that enabled that build are not present on the current tree. So that is a consideration as well. But you can sort of look at those builds for inspiration to see sort of like what sort of stuff they were doing. Yeah, so just in general then, you know, the Cyclone Shockwave build is more established and people have been leak starting it for a while now. In some form or another. And then the LA Hit Slayer is sort of more newish on the menu. And I don't know if anyone has a good established guide for what you would do with an endgame. It's really the changes that made it possible for this to be good started happening around 326, 327, when they buffed the radius of it and they buffed the flat damage that the gem gives. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see sort of what shakes out after the Slams nerfs. You know, I imagine Slams will still be in a pretty decent spot, to be honest. Just not as, like, early juggernauts as they were. Obviously, Slams had some scaling limitations, like, with, like, super levels of gear, and, like, super juice content, but for the vast majority of purposes, Slams were pretty great all around. I stopped paying attention there for a second. I'll actually take this time to go ahead and craft the stuff on my chest that I might have forgotten about otherwise. Of course, we rolled the lowest roll. That's kind of funny. Classic. We'll go back in. And we'll fight. Basically, what chunked me there before was I just stood in way too much shit. I think I stood in like all 5 of those little spikes that this guy hits, and maybe the ball from the resurrected Fidelitas.
That's two.
Alright, we'll talk about XP breakpoints here a little bit. Typically, you want to be about 47 before you enter the Chamber of Sins 1. You want to be 48 before you fight the first, like, God Pantheon boss here, which is Ralikesh, I believe. It's the dude who took over Groost, that Groost fight area. By the time we leave this act, we want to be about 50.5 to 51. We will be doing lab before we leave Act 7, just because we'll have enough power to do it'll give us a nice boost. If you feel like your character is weak or you're playing, you know, something else, you're just watching this as general guidance because there's general tips here as well for speed leveling. You can just do lab in Act 8 instead. And especially you can do it after, for example, like doing the right side of Act 8 and getting 2 skill points in the Sun Orb. Get a nice power spike, a few extra levels. You should be able to go in and absolutely kick Cruel Azaro's ass. But we're expecting to be able to dominate Cruel Azaro with elemental hits within Act 7, so we will do it within Act 7. Alright, so I can get the Hydrosphere set up going. We're going to do that right now. Hydrosphere, Battle Mage's Cry. We're going to take off our Steel Skin. We're going to find where our Auto Exert is. It's on our gloves. Auto Exert can come over here. Battle Mage's Cry goes up there. We take that off. And we put Arctic Armor here. We could potentially try and get another blue-red socket somewhere else to get, what's it called? Back. Automation Steel Skin. But remember, the Hydrosphere setup is not needed tech. It's just to help get us a extra explosion every second that will shotgun the boss. Unfortunately, it can only happen once a second, but it is extra damage. Alternatively, you know, you could invest in another aura instead of doing what we did. Unfortunately, the only aura that I'd really want to get right now would be haste, and to get haste, we would need to get some mana reservation nodes, and yeah, we're not doing that. At the moment, at least. Okay, we'll make sure we get our life nodes here. And then after we get those life nodes, we will start going down Primeval Forest to get the Inversion Mastery. We'll go down the Element Chance node to help improve the mechanics of elemental hit, since we get benefits if the enemy has elemental ailments on them when we hit with Elliot. By the way, if you feel like your mana sustain is good enough, too, you can swap your Poacher's Mark off for Punishment. Punishment will probably be the best curse you get. You have to go back to Act 2 to do that. And then when you go crit, eventually in map sometimes you'll use Assassin Mark instead. One of the nice things we can do if we keep using Poacher's Mark is there's a Mark Mastery right by where we are already for efficient pathing, which we can get, will give us Culling Strike as well as Frenzy charges on hit against unique mobs, or a chance to generate them. So that's an argument in favor of keeping Poacher's Mark if we get those nodes. If not, once your sustain feels good enough, go ahead and swap off it to Punishment. For simplicity's sake, I typically don't swap the Punishment. I will just keep Poacher's Mark going and run. Since we have to stand and deliver our damage, having the extra sustain on hit is helpful if we take a big hit. Or something else messed up happens unexpectedly. So if you're sick of pressing Blood Rage, or you forget to do it in boss fights, a nice little tip you can use anytime you have a Blood Rage or a Battle Mage's Cry that has a green socket available. You can put that bad boy on there, and now that is automated for you. We could also apply the same logic with a guard skill like Steel Skin if that was a red socket instead, which would be a nice little to-have. It does affect the frequency at which the Hydrosphere will be summoned, but it doesn't? I don't know. Actually, I'm not going to say that. I might be wrong. I think Battle Mage's Cry will cast all the spells. It just casts them in order, a specific order. It doesn't, like, alternate spells per charge. So I misspoke there for a second. I didn't realize what I was saying until I was saying it. Shit, I leveled up my Hydrosphere. Didn't need to. That's not good because there's some gear piece that has intelligence on it that allowed me to level it. I shouldn't have been able to level it with what I had on, so there's just something that's keeping me able to use it that I don't want to take off. Good news is we're not changing our gear anymore, so I don't think that's going to be an issue, but just something to keep in mind if you were going to try and keep using the tech later. Also, alternatively, we could put Culling Strike on the Hydrosphere over Blood Rage, which is actually a nice little piece of tech because we don't have to do the Frenzy Mastery, or the Mark Mastery then, because the pulses of Hydrosphere will call, assuming that one is out, when we're fighting the boss, and the boss is low, which it should be. So that's not like something that's required for the run. Really, for this run, I'm just thinking about getting the Hydrosphere for extra single target, but I'm making do with the sockets availability that I have. Okay, so it does alternate spells. Got it. Appreciate the clarity, chat. So with that in mind, it's even, you know, probably better to put our Blood Rage not on there. Okay, let's focus up and actually keep attacking this guy because I stopped attacking him a couple times. Thank you for checking, I appreciate that. We'll go to Hideout. Lily should be there already since we did it. We'll pick up a Culling Strike just to enable this to happen. If I could spell properly. There you go. Let's sell this, sell that, and then we're good to keep gaming again. We'll go back to town, we'll turn all this stuff in, and then we'll finish off the cluster, health cluster here, and then we'll go up the left side to get Primeval Force, and we will do Cruel Lab now.
Here are ways to find.
If you have an extra alt, which we do, you can actually level up a cast when damage taken and Seal Skin, or Elk, excuse me, not alt. But we'll skip that for now. Oh, we forgot the Lower Prison Trial. That is the second time I've done that recently. That's okay. Lower Prison's a pretty quick one to go get. Always want to check the top right for it. Not there, so we will continue on in the zone, and then we see it already, which is good. Just gonna take us a little bit to get there. In case you're wondering what happened with the trial, I just totally forgot about it in the particular layout we were in. Might have been yapping about something. Happens.
Local, need your aid.
That's why it's always important to get waypoints in zones that have trials in case you just go on ahead. Okay. Now we'll go do Merc Lab, or Crew Lab, excuse me.
The goddess is watching.
These boots are great. These are the Giga Boots. Calling these boots mid is an affront to speedrunners everywhere. Although, you know, we could craft something else on it, like movement speed. We just haven't yet. At a certain point, you know, we've done a bit of crafting here. We've actually done more crafting than I normally would to get, like, life crafts and gear and stuff, since we didn't need to do weapon crafts. We could use that currency there instead. But, you know, it's important when you're leveling in campaign not to get overly bogged down in crafting stuff and trying to upgrade stuff, because that can slow you down. You just want to get gear that is good enough to get you there. And mainly for most classes, like melee or bow builds, the gear that's going to be the thing that you want to focus on most is to get your weapon upgraded like every 8 to 10 levels. About every 8 levels in the second half. But so far, you know, this has been a very relaxed run. We've taken our time to explain some stuff. Our pacing is still good.
Wisdom is the
We should be able to finish this run in under 3:30, which we will take. That is good for a commentary run. And that's a good time generally. I don't want to just specify that as for commentary, but you know, I've done a 2 hour and 58-minute Ella hit run without commentary, so that is a bit slower than the run, a bit faster than the run we're currently doing. Yep, we're doing dual wield axes just to make things easier. You could be doing a dual wield axe and sword, but we're gonna get more axe nodes, and it just makes sense to be on axes, and it helps our rage generation. One issue if you're just on like axes is if you're just on like an axe and sword, is the 2 rage per hit with axe attacks doesn't quite proc frequently enough to get your rage into a good spot in a lot of situations. So having double axes helps out a lot and just allows us to scale a little more efficiently, because we can take advantage of axe nodes, and the axe nodes are fantastic, including the masteries. Now, if you wanted to use axe and sword, I have done that run before, where I will do axe and sword and take the dual wield mastery to get 60% increased damage as well. But I prefer the axe run setup. What's up, sons? How you doing? I usually like to kill at least one of these essences before he drops down. We managed to do so because we saw it in time.
I can't do this just yet.
It's important to note, by the way, that with this Hydrosphere tech, Hydrosphere can interfere with the application of EE a little bit, but you know, we take the good with the bad on that front. If you don't want to, you know, bother with it, just don't use the Hydrosphere, right? Eventually you end up dropping it in maps anyways, because like you just would get more damage elsewhere. Like, you know, if you could fit another good ore in, like haste would be better probably than the Hydrosphere setup.
An aspirant can afford
Just a nice single target supplement.
the Empire awaits you with open jaws.
There is some tech, by the way, that you can do eventually, because the radius explosions are so large on this. You can get that Hateful Accuser ring and actually use that to shotgun bosses instead of Hydrosphere later. That's probably what I'd end up doing. The Hateful Accuser is the one that gives you the like little summon phantasms from Penance Mark, excuse me. The only issue with that is you lose access to Assassin's Mark, but at a certain point you should probably have enough crit and crit cap without Assassin's Mark that getting a consistent double hit from those Phantasm bros will be worth the trade-off. From Penance Mark, sir, get your head out of the gutter.
You are like...
In my defense, I've been up for a long time, I'm sleep deprived, and yeah. And focused on blasting, sir. I would play crit. I would play crit, and I would look into playing right side with Trinity support and like penetration, or I would go left side axes with the Overwhelmed Slayer node, play crit still, and then convert everything as much as possible to fire with Avatar Fire and a Pyre Ring to get all of the elemental hit damage from cold pretty much converted to fire damage. And then yeah, I'd focus on fire damage exclusively if I went to the left, left when I say that. And then if I went to the right, I'd play swords and focus on Trinity and like crit still. Also, there is, you know, the various bloodline ascendancies, as someone pointed out in chat. I can't remember what that one does, the one they're specifically referring to from the patch notes, because there's so much going on. I think I know which one he's talking about, but it's always good to keep in those mind those bloodline ascendancies for various builds, since they're a core feature of the game now.
This goddess of benefit.
So we wanted to be about 50.5 by the time we leave this act. We are 51.5, which is chef's kiss, because we want the extra XP and gem level reliability for elemental hit. You can see that we're just about to level up elemental hit at about 51.5. Because we just leveled it up, that means we're going to do extra damage to the dude we're coming up to fight, Arcali. Yeah, so as Sons was saying there, right, that bloodline would not necessarily work if you're doing the fire version of this, where you're trying to convert everything as much as possible and using combat focus. I'm sure there's also like a frenzy stacking angle with the cold damage version of elemental hit, but like I have not looked into that whatsoever, so I can't really speak more than that, but that's another possible avenue in doing cold focus elemental hit, since I think that's what they did in Freesia, correct? So, but that was also enabled by Surfcaster, converting all your lightning damage to cold damage. Nice. 2:36. Good time. We've got about 55 or 4 minutes, excuse me, to finish the final 3 acts. That should be doable. And we want to get a sub 330, so we will go ahead and do that. I kept leveling up Hydrosphere, kind of like the Frostmink incident from earlier, where I kept leveling up. You want to make sure for int gems, if you're not planning on getting int, that you don't keep leveling them.
Oh, it smells just like the Theopolis dueling pits.
Okay, we will take this inversion mastery here, wherever it is. I miss that thing being 25%. That was such a great node. It was nice just being able to click that and not worry about, like, exposure and other stuff like that on a lot of builds. I understand why it had to go down, but man, that was a great node before. Great mastery, I should say. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. I mean, punishment is a pretty nice curse, to be honest, but yeah. I like the debilitate feature on it a lot.
I can't do this just yet.
Okay, we'll talk about our XP breakpoints here in this act. So you want to functionally end this act around 55 to 56. And then to do that, essentially, we want to get a decent amount of our XP early. One of the things that happens in this Act 8 is where you can really start building up some XP problems for the following reason. The zone levels in Act 8 ramp up quite a bit towards Lunaris Concourse, and Harbor Bridge versus like the initial zones. And if you try and like go through Harbor Bridge to the concourses, you can essentially be pretty heavily in the XP penalty. And if your XP is already in a bad shape, let's say you're level 51 and you're doing that, you're not going to get a lot of XP from those mobs. So what we'll do to ensure our XP stays good is we're actually going to go to the Grand Promenade. We'll XP in there a little bit, give us a little cushion. We'll go through the bathhouse, and then we'll go to Lunaris Concourse just to pick up the waypoint, and then we will go across to the other side and do the entire right side essentially. We're not going to be doing the skip with the underbelly. If you want to do the underbelly skip, it is fine. The issue with the underbelly skip is there is less XP available there, and just because there's less mobs, and the mobs are actually tankier because they're heist mobs rather than native inhabitants of Act 8. So that's sort of my philosophy on the underbelly area. If you're trying to go absolutely as fast as possible, then it is totally cool to do that. But if you're just going to end up having to fix your XP anywhere at a later point, anyways, at a later point, you know, you might as well just do this pathing. Plus, this pathing is pretty relaxed because you essentially just follow the water line, and it'll take you to the next zone. There's a lot of mobs in this zone, or there can be sometimes. Obviously, you'll have some density issues, which I just ran into, but also there'll be a lot of blue packs, like there is right there. Okay, we'll just go ahead straight towards Lunar's Concourse here. And then after we get to Concourse, we will use the waypoint there to get back to the Toxic Conduits, go to the quay, and do the right side of the map. Yeah, it's not that big of a deal to do belly or not to do belly. Like, literally, unless you're trying to do, like, a world record speed run, and then, or, you know, get, like, a PB for yourself. Really, it's probably, like, a 35-second time save. Maybe less if you're very fast at navigating and traveling through Grand Promenade. Not by a lot, though. That's just my my intuition estimate. I haven't looked into exactly how much of a difference it would be. It's a little bit complicated because there are those XP issues I was mentioning. So in like a points run that would apply, and like in any percent run where you're just trying to finish literally as fast as possible, like who cares, just do underbelly.
I can't finish this yet.
Give it to
Okay, now that we got all this stuff over here, we can continue on to the left side of the tree to pick up some stuff. We have Feather of Foes we can pick up. We also have this dual wield cluster that we can pick up that we should probably pick up first before we go over that way, or maybe after we go over that way. I think when I'm thinking about it right now, I want to get the life first, and then eventually we will get that dual wield cluster down there. Just want to make sure my survivability stays up to snuff for the challenges that we're going to encounter. Also, I'll check my accuracy again. I might need to get that accuracy wheel, Feather of Foes, before I get that dual wheel node. We will get it, it'll just be later in the run. It's cool if you wanted to get it earlier in the run as well. I just think there was more pressing things to get that we could benefit from more. Though it is an extremely efficient 3 points, so I will not judge you if you take that early in place of something else. So I did not, by the way, I think I missed by the layup. Yeah, I missed my area shit. So I got focused on other things. So I did not play 327 whatsoever. I played 327 for about 8 hours on League Start, so my exposure to using the tree was functionally non-existent. I don't really have commentary on a mechanic that I never really benefited from. I hope it's still good for generating sixlings, we'll put it that way. That'll be nice for me as an SSFer. Alright, so in this zone we want to look for the dead bodies. They'll show us what grain-like storage house we should go to. There's a dead body there. There'll be 3 of them in this zone, so we'll have to go through 3 storage houses at least. In 2 of the layouts, the Gemling Legionnaires will be between the first and second corpses, and in one of the layouts they'll be between the second and third corpses. Yeah, I think it was responding to my thing about, like, getting 6 links in the SSF. If your damage ever starts to feel a little bit wonky, always make sure you check your gems, because your elemental hit may be waiting to level up. Yeah, that's good. Hopefully, you know, it'll remain relatively potent to be able to get 6 links. Although I'll have to spend some time actually learning how to use the tree before the league actually starts. So I probably won't be playing quite as much on League Start for a variety of reasons. One, I need to work a little more since I've been working a little less right now to do some content for the YouTubers, do some Twitch stream, and then also as well as Slay the Spire 2 is coming out, and I'm really interested in that, as I talked about a little earlier, I think in this run. If it wasn't this run, it was a different run I did today.
I can't do this just yet.
Yep. My job also requires me to, like, not be sleep deprived, and I haven't been able to sleep recently. So it's also made sense to do a few more runs, because if I can't drive, I can't really do what I need to do safely for my job. Yep. So basically, speed and difficulty of getting like an actual upgrade that might be relevant. Really, the biggest things that we can get on our gear or our weapons would be attack speed and like % increase elemental damage. Flat damage of a particular element is nice, but it only applies a third of the time due to the nature of elemental hit. And then I guess, you know, you could also use like essences that give elemental penetration of a particular element. But the same thing sort of applies to the flat discussion we just had. It will only apply a third of the time.
There is nothing else.
Yay. So my Guardian was down below, and it used Herald of Purity as supplemental damage. So I had 2 4-links, I had down below, and I had Herald of Purity on it. And then there was an auto exert set up for Ancestral Cry, but that is not like a damage thing, that is a quality of life thing. I don't know why I dropped that portal, by the way, that was not needed. Okay. We will path to Bloodless now. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna make a bit of an audible here. Yeah, I want Bloodless first. Okay, I want more life. So we're gonna get more life first. Those were minions generated by Dominating Blow. And also Hair to Purity. And then the Guardian Ascendancy gives you that big giant looking dude for its first node on elemental or minions. Also a Holy Relic, which is like a little floating thing that pulses shockwaves. Okay, we'll talk to Einhar here. We'll get him involved in the action. We'll eat a Yugo Slam. I hate this particular fight because I have a really difficult time tracking these little stupid balls on the ground. Like the cold degen balls. For whatever reason, I literally just don't see them. And then like 18 of them are on me at a time eventually because I don't see them. I just start giga degenning. And Dominating Blow. Sorry, I was abbreviating it. That might have been part of the issue. Okay. We got it. Appreciate it, chat. I'm gonna check to make sure I have my right Pantheons. I have Brine King and Tukahama still. If you didn't want to use Tukahama, another good one for leveling to use is the Risata one, which gives you flasks if you haven't used them, or flask charges if you haven't used them within 3 seconds. That one's nice, especially for builds that are more mobile than the stand and deliver version of this build is on single target. SMSW, thank you so much for tuning in, brother. I hope the rest of your day goes well.
But I will never forget what you became for me.
Is my stream down? Is that from me? What's going on here? Okay. Sorry. Sometimes chat context when I'm doing a speedrun and trying to read and pay attention is a little bit beyond me. Streamer problems. Okay, we have Bloodless. We need to check our accuracy values. We are still good. We have about 400 HP of wiggle room, so we don't need to get Feller Foes right away. Instead, we can get that axe wheel, or the dual wield cluster that I've been skipping for a while. Okay. That could have been bad. Didn't move in time to avoid that. Bit lazy. Okay, we'll check our passives real quick. We've got everything we want from this act. DPS is still fine for what it is. What the fuck? Totally not paying attention to the right thing anymore. We are getting a little tired here. That does not bode well for our Merc Lab that's coming up pretty soon. But we will try and soldier through. Okay, we need to move off of our cold degens because we weren't paying attention to it due to our Hydrosphere covering it. Alright, let's get moving here. Alright, so for this act, we want to finish it about at level 58.5 towards 59, so we can just keep zooming through for the most part. Once we hit that break point, this act can be very short as long as you stay on task and traverse through the zones efficiently. We are almost 57, which is good. That bodes well for us to get to about 58.5 by the end of this act. Hopefully it'll be more towards 59. Okay. EU load screen experience right there. Sorry, EU. I wish you guys had better load screens. It really sucks how that works out for you guys. Obviously, if you're in places further away than the EU, yeah, that also sucks even worse. Or Gucci has, like, forever loads every time he wants to enter an exit zone. One day, surely, they'll fix the routing, so other areas of the world don't have to route through Texas. And everyone's instant creation time is equivalent to North America. Alright, so we're going to do this Stormblade quest. Typically the way I like pathing Act 9 is I will do the Stormblade quest right away once I get here. And after I get the Stormblade, I will head to the southeast corner of the map and sort of like move upwards along it or downwards as needed with my positioning to find the entrance to the Oasis. Once you find the entrance to the Oasis, you'll portal back to town. When you portal back to town, you'll talk to Sin, and you'll go talk to Patreus and Vanja, and they will give you the Bottled Storm. This actually helps you a bit more if you do it this way instead of not discovering the storm, because essentially you can avoid some lines of RP dialogue that otherwise you would be forced to have to click through. So, we'll go here, Talk to Trace and Vanja.
Have you? Well,
Take care.
Okay, we are gonna head south from the entrance here. I just know this particular layout. There's only 3 layouts in Oasis. If you have a narrow entrance like this that shoots you out to the left, the boss area will be all the way to the south and to the right, essentially. So head south. Once it opens up to the right significantly, we'll go right, and then we will find the boss. There'll be an entrance where you're forced to the right instead, or it opens up to the right. If that's the case, you just keep heading to the right to find the boss. And then finally there's another entrance where you're forced to the left like we had this time, but instead of being a narrow canyon, it's a big open one. If that's the case, you just keep heading up, and eventually you'll find the boss. So those are the 3 layouts for Oasis and how you would identify and read them. In audio form, I'd recommend looking, I might have a guide for that. I'm not sure if I do or don't. If I don't, it's an easy enough one to put together. I don't think I have a YouTube video for it.
You killed Chicago.
can't do this just yet.
An emperor must bear two blades. Hope in the left hand, surety in the right.
Oh, thank you. I somehow muted my mic. I appreciate it. So we were talking, I was just saying bye to the people that were saying bye, and I was kind of talking about how, you know, that with this run, essentially, we are just looking to hit XP breakpoints right now at the moment. Thank you for letting me know, by the way, that my mic was muted or I wasn't saying anything. But I am definitely pretty tired. I was in the middle of talking about how, like, the pacing for this could be a lot faster, right? Especially if we don't, like, if you're following this or you just want the general leveling advice. One of the things with this run slowed down a lot compared to other runs is, you know, I spent a little more time in town talking through the gem swaps and talking about how we were going to get gear. I did a non-commentary run, and like non-high chat interaction run essentially a couple days ago in about 258 on Elemental Hit Slayer. So there is definitely speed to be had. In terms of how we want to path through the quarry, by the way, once we get to the quarry, we always want to go through the right side of the quarry, because at the right side of the quarry, there is always going to be one of the refinery or one of Garukhan's shrine area where we do that boss fight. If the refinery is there, Garukhan's shrine will be on the left wall of the quarry zone because it can never be on the top wall. And if it's Garukhan's shrine, then the refinery will be on the top mid portion of the zone, like with the wall there, because the refinery can never be on the left wall. We're going to take this nice and slow, avoid some mechanics, and then, you know, of course, randomly forget to avoid a mechanic, and then get popped. Okay, so since we saw refinery on the right wall here, we know that Garukhan's shrine is going to be on the left wall. Just talking about the rule I said. Hey Mouse, welcome back, by the way. So sometimes with the shrine, it'll be a little lower on the left wall, and the refinery is to the right. Other times it will be a little higher. It does move around a little bit, but generally speaking, it will be on the left wall. What's up, Groupie? How you doing? Groupie. I forget how Pac pronounces it. So apologies. I'm also a bit tired right now, so my pronunciation game is not on point.
My spirit's suspense.
Yeah, I have the double debuff of only knowing how to speak English, and then also, like, I don't hear the words I hear, I can't really translate that well, like, with my tongue, or replicate the sounds compared to some other people. So my pronunciation in other languages, like Spanish, isn't that great. I do speak a bit of Spanish. Nothing too crazy, though. Basically, I know enough Spanish if you were to drop me off somewhere in a Spanish-speaking country, like, I could get directions and be okay. Not very conversant, though. Alright, let's fill out those nodes, and then we can start pathing towards some more life nodes. That is French, Vinny. I know enough to know that one. And also, we have the legendary PoB emote. Alright, so we're going to check our XP, see if we're on pace to be 58.5 or 59 by the time we end this act. We are 58.5 already, which is great. So hopefully we can get more towards 59. Now, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to have enough points to get some of the stuff that we wanted to get, so we're going to make some choices about prioritizing, maybe getting a little extra life. We'll get Feller of Foes first to get extra accuracy, and then with whatever points we have left over, we'll get some extra life. If you continue to maps, my suggestion would maybe be pathing towards Veterans Combatant, which is a raid node, which is Rage node, right near where we are. sand in that spam. That is definitely tiredness happening. God, fuck. We are gonna be in for such cinema for Merc Lab with how tired I am right now. We're gonna have to be on our game for Merc Lab. I've been having issues with insomnia and sleeping at the moment, so my sleep schedule is very messed up, and I've only been able to sleep like 3-4 hours a night for the past like week. So we are a bit in a bad shape in the sleep department. I've gotten 6 hours a couple times, which is better, but like last night, I only got something like 4.5, and unfortunately, there was something outside, and my dog was barking at it, and once I woke up from that, I could not fall asleep again. Unfortunately, what melatonin does for me, and I have tried it before, is it just makes me really groggy the next day. It doesn't really help me fall asleep initially so much. But I definitely feel it the next day, that's for damn sure. So I have an Airedale Terrier. It is one of the largest terrier breeds, and I actually have an emote of him on my channel. I will say it in a second here. This is my dog, Radley. That's what an Airedale kind of looks like. Kind of got a goofy photo of him, but that's him.
I can't do this just yet.
Okay, we are literally standing in all the mechanics here. Holy Merc Lab. Merc Lab is coming up. We got the cinema. I used to also have a parrot, an umbrella cockatoo. It was my ex's though, so once we broke up, that was no longer a thing. Miss him. I like parrots a lot. But I've had dogs my whole life. So. Yeah, they can be a bit loud, for sure. But it was nice having a parrot. Unfortunately, I'm allergic to cats, so I can't have cats. I really like cats, but allergies, man. Okay, let's get Feller of Foes here. And then with whatever skill points we have left over, we will just put some life nodes in. So we should get to around 2200 life here after we allocate that last node, because I'm expecting to get at least 2 more levels, and then I'm also expecting to get a skill point. So we'll get 12% more life on tree, and then 1 more damage node. If we get to 62, we'll get some more. So the pathing I'm doing in Act 10 here is a bit different than normal. What I'm doing, instead of going back at the ossuary waypoint and going through town to go back to the portal and doing Valenta, I'm going all the way through the right side first, because when you kill Avarius, he will, there will be a room that opens up leading you back to the start of the Desecrated Chambers, and you can just use that waypoint to return to town instead of the waypoint at ossuary. The one thing you have to pay attention to, and of course, you know, this would not have happened to me in an earlier run today, is you don't want to accidentally press your portal button, because that would ruin the whole strategy. Surely didn't happen to me. We had this whole yap session, and then an incident might have occurred when I pressed my portal button instead of my 1 key. I have my portals on tilde, so if I ever mispress F flask, I open a portal. Should probably put them on something else, but that's just kind of what they've defaulted to. This particular pathing allows us to do a few things. One, it allows us to turn in a couple quests. You don't really need the quest for anything. You do need to talk to Bannon to get him to show up in town, or at the Horns of Patava, to open them once you've gotten the Staff of Varius. So that's a nice thing to do, and we're running by him anyways from the waypoint to the portal, and then we can talk to Lonnie twice to get rid of some of our RP dialogue for things that we don't care about. So when we return from killing Valenta, we can get a skill book just by talking to her once. Yeah, F1's a good idea for that. I think the only reason why I don't have stuff on F1 usually is for when I used to do my runs like offline on OBS. F1 was like my start recording key. We'll kill a bunch of these blue packs. Yeah, my exit or logout keys are on F3 or F4, depending. F3 is a TCP log, and F4 is like the standard log. Oops. I forgot this wasn't regular innocence. I was like, why is this guy not phasing? Decoy totems are extremely helpful here to get his attention, because that guy hits like an absolute Mack truck. I have died to his swings before with like 2500 HP and like Fortify and Determination on, so that guy does not play around with his swings. They're easy to, you know, avoid if you don't have a decoy, but it's nice just to have a decoy up and let that thing soak all the hate while you beat him to death with your elemental hit. Eventually, decoy totems will become less relevant, especially as you get into mapping, because they just won't have enough survivability without, like, investment on the tree. So, decoy totems time, he's been a valiant hero, but it is quickly coming to an end. Accidentally pressed the wrong key there and ended up doing like a skip across the entire screen with Leaf Slam and Frostflame. Kind of funny. Yeah, we're back. Okay, ideally you don't want to stand in the degen beams, but you know, she was doing like a channel animation where there wasn't really any danger to me at the time, and I knew I was gonna phase her before she'd start attacking again. But generally, standing in degen beams, bad. Okay, got our kill. We will go get our skill book, and then we will go do the ossuary from here, do trial, and do Merc Lab. Okay, we'll put one there, and then we'll put a point in the 6% increased life there. We will get one more level for sure. There is a potential that we could get a second level. I'm probably not going to force it. We'll be 61 at the end of the run, which is a good place to be for elemental hit, or just in general, because you won't experience much of a map penalty. Typically, at League Start, I like to be around 62 to 64, so I'll actually XP a little bit extra in a couple zones. So for example, like I might do a couple extra BAs just to get a little bit extra gold, or get bases to try and craft on for early maps. I don't know what I'm League Starting yet. This is definitely a contender for what I might League Start.
An emperor must.
Okay, let's go do Merc Lab. Cinema time, boys.
The goddess is watching.
Alright, right, then left. I don't remember specifically from the patch notes what the brand buffs were. It's kind of focused, you know, I mainly play Melee, so I was looking at the slam stuff and other Atlas changes and things like that, rather than focusing so much on stuff like totems. That's cool though, if totems and brands got buffs, that's always nice. When I said BA, by the way, I don't mean BA specifically, I just meant some zone that you can farm. You can do chambers, you can do ossuary. Typically, if I have to farm gear, or I want a little bit extra XP or bases, I will do ossuary instead of desecrated. That's just my preference though. And the reason why I started doing that is there used to be some div card that dropped in there that was, you know, kind of nice to have a little bit, but it wasn't very common at all.
The weary traveler draws.
Oh, so it does sound like Stormbrand got some lovin'. Okay, essences, we'll make sure to kill at least one of them.
Are relentless.
Oh shit, almost had another Merc Lab incident because we left Slam 2 fall.
My goddess, what
God damn it, man. That's funny.
but
Static Strike having 4-second duration now is super nice, especially if you're doing snapshotting stuff with it. Okay, we're gonna pretend like I didn't just fall for that lab trap and just went on a total ruse cruise for no reason. Okay. I have never claimed to be a Merc Lab speedrunner. So we are spamming our flask a little much right now, and we are in a bit of a danger zone situation. We don't find some mobs. Okay, we got him.
where there's a golden key, there must be a golden door. Gold is the most liberating of metals. When the time comes to strike, an emperor strikes without hesitation who empowers the scepter to entertain
That's interesting. That's a nice little piece of tech. We can actually get that master and cloth enchant here. That's good to keep in mind for future future runs. Okay, so we made a big oopsie there. The oopsie is we left all the fonts up, so our last Azaro fight is going to be a bit rough, because we've got 2 essences up and we'll have 3 curses on us. I can deal with temp chains. The vulnerability is going to be a bit hard, and then obviously the res lowering is also spooky. Basically, we're about to be entering the Thunderdome because I misplayed by allowing those fonts to stay up. So where am I going? So we slowed down a little bit in Act 9 versus what my projected pace was, just so we could get our levels. We're probably going to finish this run right around 3 hours 30 to 3 hours 31, depending on how fast we finish this fight and how fast we traverse the Katava zones. We could also finish at sub 30s still. We just really have to hustle.
You are condemned.
Okay, avoid the slam. Essences are really fucking my day up. Decoy totem, save me! Decoy totem! Do it again! So I told you that fight would be absolute cinema. So, you can take whatever you want here. I'd probably take Overleech on League Start, because that's a great node to have for mapping. We didn't finish the down below Guardian run, so we're going to have to do that again. We essentially had a Merc Lab incident as well that we almost just had there. It's kind of a tough Azaro, to be honest. Yeah, that Azaro fight made me stressed too. But that's what happens when you're sleep deprived and you misplayed by allowing mechanics to stay up that should have been taken down. Like, I should have just waited for all those fonts to go down. With curses up, that fight became way harder, and those essences were doing like a ton of damage to me as well, and all this stuff that was happening with the Fizz vulnerability and my resistances being lowered by curses made things spooky, to say the least. Okay, we do have a chance at sub 230 as long as we play the Katava fight well. We need about 2.5 minutes for it. We're not going to get there with 2.5 minutes, so we'll just have to see if our damage is good enough. Unfortunately, the animations in this fight take a long time, so I'm not confident about getting the sub 330 on this. Could be close though, we'll see. Control your character, man. I have absolutely no idea. I've never looked to see. I think Elementalist would be weird though, to be honest. But who knows what you can cook up with like cluster jewels and things like that to possibly make this work, but hey, Portal, get the fuck out of there. Stop standing on degen. Yeah. Or walking into a slam immediately. Whee! Cinema. Having more than 2 life is a good goal to have. Call that staying alive in the business. Okay, yeah, so it's going to take a few seconds for the heart to spawn, and it'll take a few seconds after the heart is killed for us to get the res penalty messages. So we will not be getting a sub 230, unfortunately, but it'll be pretty close.
May a new dawn
And I think this run was better put together than the other sort of pseudo-commentary run we did for this, with a better game plan. So we will take that. We have 21 passes, which is what we should have, and we have 1 death to dying to Chevron, not paying attention in Act 4 to some lightning damage.